beautiful, oh, beautiful. Baby, don't you know you're so beautiful? Oh, baby, don't you know you're so beautiful, 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 beautiful. Baby, don't you know you're so beautiful? Yeah, 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 yeah. Baby, don't you know you're so beautiful? You're so beautiful.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. For Spike, the silverback gorilla, Cohen, I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom.
That feels like a personal attack because I'm sure some of the hair on my back is gray, and that's really no one's business. Hey, everybody, how are you doing? It's good to talk to you tonight on this Tuestastic Tuesday.
Tuestastic. We've already got Shane Sweeney.
Oh, good.
Shane Sweeney in the comments over on the YouTube.
Hey, Shane, you dry aged any tilapia tonight? Huh?
Tilapia is better than salmon 2020 is his hashtag tonight.
Oh, is it? Is that why we both watched the same video where someone dry aged a bunch of different types of delectables and some tilapia and said that the salmon was perfection and the tilapia was all right? Is that why he said that, Shane? I guess that's why he said that. Good to have you here.
He says, "Nah, I don't play with my food."
Okay.
I don't know. That's what he says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, welcome everyone to this Super Tuesday. Oh, we weren't going to say. Yeah, we're not going to say that. But it's a Super Tuesdacular. It's Super Tuesrific as well.
Super Tuesrific, Super Tuestastic.
It's a Tuesrific Tuesdacular.
It is not Super Tuesgasmic. Super Tuesgasmic.
It is not here anyway.
No.
I'm sure it is somewhere. Sadly, not here.
Right. First and foremost, allow me to thank Benjamin Daniel Morris Chestnut the Sixth.
Morris Chestnut.
For the Kava that I'm drinking on today's episode.
And allow me to thank Kroger, Benjamin Mackay Pfeiffer Kroger for this purified drinking water because I ran out of the Aquapana I'd been drinking for a week and a half. Aquapana. It was so good too. That water was like candy.
Bulavanaka.
Oh, Bulavanaka to Mackay Pfeiffer.
To Benjamin Daniel Morris Chestnut.
Morris Chestnut. Freaking, Aguapana Lorenz Tate. I would miss that. So we already have some results. We're going to be going over some other of the week's events, most of which happened like yesterday. But the already have some results coming in. But before we get to all that, Matt, this episode is brought to you by the Libertarian Party Dad Bod Calendar, featuring the sexiest libertarian men that are allowed to be sent through the Postal Service. And including myself right there, Mr. April, the sweet summer boy Spike Cohen himself. And so you can go to libertariandadbod.com. It's only $12, including shipping. And you can hang me and all of the other sexy libertarian men from your fridge or wherever you would hang sexy libertarian men from your home, libertariandadbod.com, $12. This episode is also brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the fastest growing caucus that is illegally using the logo of a major corporation. And we are growing faster than ever before. Also, be sure to buy our buttons. $2 for a little button, $5 for a big button. Matt?
Yep. Get your buttons for the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus today. And today. And also get yourself a Libertarian Dad Bod calendar. It makes the perfect accessory to any at-home office where Spike can just sit over your shoulder.
Directly behind you.
I don't know if right there. Right there.
Right behind Matt is you're looking at
5 different spikes.
All 5 of the spikes. Like we said in the last
That's
episode,
right.
This is actually a very advanced political compass. It's actually kind of accurate how scary how accurate that is. But yeah, be sure to go and get that. The kids will love it. The kids will say, "Hey, thanks for bringing these middle-aged, mostly nude men into our home, Dad, Mom. Thanks.
Very accurate.
This is helping me with my emotional development as a child, and I'm grateful for that." So be sure to pick that up. And also our friend Justin Tucker. If I'll put his GoFundMe in the notes. He is a supporter and follower of ours. He's also a really great guy. He's been very involved with the Libertarian Party of Chicago. He had a fire in his apartment a couple weeks ago. Lost literally everything but like the clothes on his back. And so we have a GoFundMe has been set up to help him with his trying to get back on his feet, find a place to live, get some clothes and furniture and stuff like that. And so be sure to help with that. Also, I'm sure most of you or a lot of you know that there were some really devastating fires very devastating tornadoes in the Nashville area and the surrounding area of Middle Tennessee last night.
I thought you were going to go with the tornadoes, and then you said fires, and I was like, I don't know, where were there fires?
I just said fires. Thankfully there were no fires, but there was a terrible tornado. Many people died. Many homes were destroyed. I think there are still people missing. An absolutely devastating. There was an entire homeless community that was completely wiped out. Absolutely devastating. And so the Libertarian Party of Tennessee is actually going to. They're collecting donations right now. They're doing a fundraiser where they're going to work in concert with local charities and local groups that are helping people there, and go out and also help themselves. Go out themselves and help with the people that need the help there with the tornadoes. And so if you go to, and I'll put this in the notes as well, but if you go to lptn.org/donate, and then when you make your donation, it will, in your little prompt where you're donating, it will ask you what it's for. Be sure to put for tornado relief. If you want to donate just for general stuff as well, you certainly can. But if you're wanting to donate specifically for the tornado relief, put in the byline that it's for tornado relief, and that will go directly to the people that are on the ground helping with the tornado relief there. So those are 2 things. If you were looking to be helpful today for people, those are things that you can help with. Our top fan, Robin Dominic, says, "Vermin is my birthday month. Glad I wasn't born in November. If for no other reason, then you get to have Vermin as," he's October, right? Yeah, he was October. Yeah. And a Scorpio's delight. Let me put it that way. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful thing that Vermin did there. So you'll all definitely enjoy that. We're already getting some updates from Chris Reynolds, personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, who's also a top fan, a mega fan.
Mega fan.
What's the thing that you can't actually, that really only Sarah can be?
Super fan.
Super fan.
Super fan.
I mean, really, no one else can do. So Chris said Pete currently has more delegates than Warren, which is hilarious. So, because he's not in the race anymore.
Right. So
Ton of updates already. Goodness.
Yeah, it's so many updates already. We probably should have started this show at 7. But as we all know, it's Super Tuesday. It's why we're all here. It's what we're all interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So far, Biden has won, even though the polls just closed not long ago. Virginia, which was called literally 30 seconds after those polls closed. North Carolina, which was about 15 minutes.
Right.
And Alabama, right? That's the one that just came in?
Yes.
Yeah, in Alabama. Bernie has won Vermont.
Which I mean,
comes as absolutely zero shock to
total
anybody.
shock to nobody. Total shock to no one.
But we've got a lot of good stuff tonight. We got so much information and some other stories that don't actually have anything to do with
Super Tuesday, but they happen this week.
Super Tuesday.
They happen this week. So, this is what we do on this show. We parse through the week's events with the cheer and aplomb of what are we, winter wyverns or something?
Man, I don't remember.
What alliterative homoerotic thing are we for this season? Anyway, we're just nice men that are sharing things with you. So like the nice men that we are. Also with 100% reporting, big blowout there in American Samoa. Matt was very excited about this one. Michael Bloomberg wins in American Samoa out of nowhere with 50% of the American Samoan vote, Matt.
Yes, with the Bloomberg winning American Samoa.
American Samoa.
Honestly, did not see that one coming.
No one did.
No, not even a little bit on that one.
Even the people that voted for him. No. They all were like, "Oh, you did too? Wow."
So we're gonna kind of discuss a couple of different models and a couple of different theories that we have for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We won't know if we're right or not tonight. And we'll get into why later.
Yeah.
But because delegate counts we're going to know who wins almost every state, but we aren't going to know delegate counts, obviously, until after everything's counted and sorted out and people have stopped fighting each other. So there are a lot of different ways that this can go. We think we know which way it's going. And
have said so from the beginning.
And we're very, very rarely wrong.
It's kind of scary, actually.
It is kind of scary. We've been killing it on elections.
In life, we are often wrong.
Oh yeah, all the time.
In politics, very rarely. Outside of politics, it goes downhill.
Podcast in the 2000s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But so right now, earlier today, not right now, models have changed. But earlier today, models showed that Biden could get as many as 630 delegates or as few as 341, which is a huge swing.
That is a big swing.
That is a huge, huge swing. And Sanders could get as few as 325 or as many as 608.
Also a large swing.
Yes, very large swing. Obviously, we're going to know after all of today's votes have been counted, which, because of California, could take a week.
Brought to you by Shadow.
I mean, at least with California, it makes sense.
Right.
Sort of.
It's because their system's actually designed to obfuscate. Right.
It's because their system is designed to it's kind of designed for the voter. It's not designed for the people like us who are nerds who want to find out all this stuff.
Want to find out what happened. Right.
But in California, most of Californians vote by mail. And ballots only need to be postmarked by election day. So that means they have up until today to vote.
So it's going to be like 2 days from now before they even have all the... And in fact, even possibly more, because California is a pretty large state.
Right.
So, I mean, we're looking at maybe 3 days. I mean, I don't know how long it takes the mail to get around there, but maybe 2 or 3 days for all of the votes to come in.
Yeah, they're looking at possibly Friday for having all of the votes, which means next week on our show, with whatever primaries are going on that day, we will probably be able to announce California as well.
Probably. But we would have thought that with Iowa too, and it turned out
Right.
no.
No, absolutely not. But so California is going to hold up everything. So they're probably going to announce a winner. I'm not going to give that a guarantee, but we can't really say who wins California and at what state or at what rate.
Right.
Currently, we have it predicted that it's going to be a close race with Biden and Bernie getting roughly 465 delegates each from today. Now, that can fluctuate, 470, 450, whatever.
Right.
But it's going to be somewhere around there. We think that Biden is going to take the majority of those.
Right.
Bloomberg and Warren they're going to come in somewhere with the low 200s, high 100s. And even that's kind of questionable.
It looks like, especially for Warren, but Bloomberg and Warren are pretty much in there as spoilers for, Bloomberg being a spoiler for Biden and Warren being a spoiler for Sanders. And Warren really being a spoiler for Sanders, because Bloomberg can dump endless reams of money and stay competitive just by, inundating the airwaves. Warren is truly limping to the convention in the hopes that she'll, for some reason, get picked in a brokered convention, which I don't see what her calculus there is, except she's the only woman left that isn't Tulsi Gabbard. So I don't see why she would think that would happen, but she's truly just playing spoiler, and I'm sure Biden's happy she's still in the race, because she's just making that much harder for Bernie to get the majority of delegates before the convention.
Right. And right after the South Carolina primary, she came out and attacked Bernie, which I thought that was a really odd choice for her.
Well, she's trying to get his votes, but yeah.
Yeah, she attacked Bernie. She goes, "We don't need senators who have been there for 40 years and haven't accomplished anything." I can't remember the exact wording she used, but she went hard after Bernie, saying he has done absolutely nothing as a senator and has never gotten anything done and or passed. And that's not the kind of leadership we need in Washington. So she's going hard after Bernie, and she could have seen that the Joementum was a real thing. So that way she kind of figured she would just kind of push that train along.
Oh. If she stays in, makes it harder for Bernie, and also she's got progressive cred, making her a potential VP pick. Both because she appeals to progressives, probably not as much now, but previously appealed to progressives, and also because she basically kamikazed Bernie.
Right.
That'd be a matchup, huh?
But as we all know, over the weekend, shortly after the South Carolina primary, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, he dropped out.
Yep.
The next day, Tom Steyer dropped out the night of.
Yep.
Which, personally, I think it's because that video was leaked of him and Juvenile
backing that ass up.
Back that ass up.
If he had done it well, again, we've talked about this with Mayor Blackface, or Governor Blackface,
Governor
Northam.
Blackface.
Northam, that, he says the reason he was doing blackface was to dance as Michael Jackson, to impersonate Michael Jackson. The only person to ever use shoe polish to impersonate a man who is actually whiter than Ralph Northam. But he said that he did the whole dance. And Matt and I are pretty sure he does it well, because when they asked him if he could do it, he got super excited about it. And his wife
his eyes lit up.
I know that, and I've said this many times. I know how to dance. So when people say to me, you can dance, do it now, I get excited, because I know people don't expect that I'd be able to dance. And then I get to dance, and and I know they're going to be like, oh my gosh, she's such a good dancer. He had that same look on his face. Like, I'm about to show the world how great I can dance.
I get to show off the fact that I can moonwalk.
That I can moonwalk, right. And his wife was like, no, it's not appropriate. And he's like, oh.
No, again.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's some controversy as to what she exactly said. Yeah.
Inappropriate circumstances. That was the sentence. Inappropriate circumstances.
And we don't know if she was saying inappropriate circumstances or if she was saying inappropriate circumstances. Either way, she did not want him dancing then.
No, she did not.
But I think
that was very inappropriate.
If he's as good as we think he is, then she screwed him up there. Because if he had gotten out there and nailed the moonwalk, and then the hee and the whole thing, like could actually do the double spin and all that stuff, and the kick and everything, all would have been forgiven. Or most would have been forgiven. A lot would have been forgiven. A lot of people would have been like, well, he really nailed that moonwalk, though. Similarly, if Tom Steyer had gotten out there and, showed off his twerk team Black Girl Magic, then, it could have worked for him. But no, Tom Steyer has zero Black Girl Magic. And it showed. And so he's out of the race.
With 0% reporting in North Carolina, Biden got 33%, Sanders got 26%, Warren got 12%.
With 0% reporting.
0% reporting, according to Decision Desk HQ.
That's a low sample.
Now, none of whatever happens tonight does not seem to change the fact that nobody is going to get the necessary 1,991 delegates in order to win on the first round.
Right.
It is going to go to the second. Biden could possibly have a good enough day, which would push him through the rest of the primaries in order to get the 2375 or whatever it is. I can't remember off the top of my head. 2375 with the super delegates in the second round, but he is not going. I don't think anybody's going to reach the 1991 for the first round.
No, it's what now? Like a 6 in 9 chance that no one gets it or something like that.
It went down a little bit today. Okay. It went down a little bit today, and it's actually it's like 6 in 10 now. So it just went down slightly.
So it's like I mean the odds are no one's gonna get the majority of delegates.
Right.
But if someone really pulls away. Interesting results here. I know that they're very, very little counted so far. In Texas, with 5% in, Bernie is leading Biden 27-25, with Bloomberg getting 20. In Massachusetts, which is literally right next door to Vermont, and is the state that Liz Warren lives in, Joe Biden ahead. Now, this is with only 2% reporting, but he's ahead 35-24 against Bernie Sanders. Liz Warren coming in third right now at 22%. Matt, I have to think that those results might flip up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm
just gonna go ahead and guess that.
I don't see that one hanging out too long, but
if it does.
God, if he takes Massachusetts,
it's
over.
And similarly in Maine, which it doesn't border Vermont, but it's right there next to it. It's just New Hampshire. Tiny state in between. Yeah, there's a tiny sliver of a state called New Hampshire in between it. With 2% reporting, Joe Biden with 38% to Bernie Sanders 32%. With Bloomberg in third at 14%. Now, just keeping in mind how pathetic Liz Warren remaining in this race is right now from a trying to get delegates in the actual election standpoint, because that's clearly not what she's doing. I mean, even in her press releases now, it's talking about how she thinks she's confident she's going to be picked by the delegates in a brokered convention, which is sort of what Buttigieg was saying and Klobuchar were saying before they they got knuckled down hard by someone because they both dropped out and endorsed Joe. So I mean, she's coming in third in her state, coming in fourth, we presume, because it only shows the top three here on 538. Maybe Gabbard's ahead of her. In Maine, which is literally right next door to Massachusetts. Again, I have to think these results might change. 2% is not a lot. With 4% reporting, Joe Biden is ahead 24 to both Bloomberg and Bernie have 20% each, and he has 25. With, again, 0% reporting in Alabama, Joe Biden ahead 51 to 18, with Bloomberg in second and Bernie in third. And then with 4% in Tennessee, Bernie, Biden, and Bloomberg are basically in a statistical tie at 24%.
In Tennessee?
In Tennessee, yeah.
Okay. So now, according to North Carolina exit polls, Biden still has a problem with young voters. Preliminary data suggests Sanders crushed him with 54% to 21% among 17 to 29-year-olds, which is not surprising at all.
No.
And they virtually tied among voters 30 to 44, but between 45 and 64 went for Biden, 47% to 18%.
Yeah, there's a huge generational gap in Democrat voters. You've got your
and then older than that was actually 55 to 8. So what you're looking at there is people who are 45 to 60, 45 and up have been taught socialism is bad. Anybody that calls himself a socialist is bad.
Even though they and Republicans vote for socialism and big government every time they vote, the word socialism, bad.
Right.
Yep.
Every time. But they hear socialism, they say they can't support that because socialism's bad.
Right.
Which we agree. Don't get us wrong.
Yeah.
We agree. But that is why you're seeing that trend as it gets younger. More and more people are willing to vote for it because they aren't being taught that is bad anymore.
Well, they're hearing that the current system is free market capitalism, which it is not. And they are getting screwed by this free market capitalism because when, they're making not much more than their parents and grandparents made at their age, and the cost of housing is 10 times higher than it was, when their parents and grandparents were their age, and the cost of education is 30 times higher, and the cost of healthcare is 20 times higher. They can't afford it. And they're having to compete with robots and losing their jobs to robots while their parents and grandparents are telling them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps like they did back when the house cost, $3,000. And they were making $6 an hour, but the house cost $3,000, and so they're being told, oh, Bernie's going to destroy free market capitalism, and they say, okay, good, and they go, oh well, but we're going to have to pay all these taxes. That's fine. I'm fine with Gammy paying lots of taxes, and so that's you're seeing a generation that has been millennials and Gen Z have been completely left behind by this, big government corporatist economy, and to the benefit of their parents and grandparents, especially their grandparents, to their direct detriment. And so they're voting for something that they feel is a punishment to those people. So it is very much a generational war being played out in the Democratic primary and in the election in general, because a lot of those Democratic primary voters, if Bernie gets it, are going to vote for Trump. And a lot of those Democratic primary voters, if Biden or Bloomberg or some other establishment candidate get it, are going to vote for Vermin Supreme or not show up or vote Green Party or vote, Democratic Socialists or whatever, vote something else or not vote. So it's a tough time to be in the leadership of the Democratic Party.
It is a very tough time. So we've got 5 possibilities that could happen tonight, many of which are already happening. None of them are good for, so none of how this looks to be playing out is good for Sanders. So first, we are obviously correct. That's the number one thing. Biden edges out Bernie by a handful of delegates tonight. We're looking at 468, 450, somewhere in that range. This is going to hurt Bernie, but he can bounce back, especially with Joe Biden being Joe Biden.
Yes.
Which we'll show you some stuff later.
When we say here's how Bernie can win this thing, we're actually serious because up until the end, Bernie can actually win this thing.
Right.
Possibly.
And then Bloomberg and Warren will get 150 to 270 each. You can split that however you want. I don't really care.
Doesn't matter.
Number two, Biden wins huge. He's going to be raking in over 600 delegates. Bernie will stick right around the lower 400s. And then Bloomberg and Warren, 50 to 215. The third, Bernie wins huge, which it does not look like that's going to be happening.
No.
And Bernie wins huge, brings in about 600 delegates, which could happen if he wins Texas and California, Colorado, and Utah.
I don't see that happening.
I think he's going to win Colorado. Yeah, Texas is the one that's a question.
Yeah.
Biden brings in around 450. And then Bloomberg and Warren split 60 to 220, somewhere in there. Number four, Biden and Bernie both clean up. Warren and Bloomberg get next to nothing, 35 to 140-ish. And both Biden and Bernie carry around 580.
That's actually pretty likely.
That is exceptionally likely. But Bloomberg appears to be doing better than I thought in some of these states already.
Like American Samoa.
American Samoa. Yeah, he's killing it in American Samoa. And number five, no, this isn't going to happen. But Bloomberg and Warren win big, and Biden and Bernie each get less than 400 delegates, giving them the majority on the day. But Bloomberg and Warren get 250 to 300.
That's the least likely to happen, but the most entertaining would be that happening.
Oh God, that would be amazing.
If this became a true four-way race, that would be easily the most entertaining television that doesn't involve nudity or penetration. Honestly, possibly even more. I mean, sex is great and all, but have you ever seen a four-way Democratic primary? Huh? So, I mean,
in breaking news: Jeb Bush
wins it all.
Jeb Bush wins it all today.
Wins every single state in American Samoa. Speaking of which, real quick, Serotonin, before I forget, says, how come American Samoa can vote and not Puerto Rico? So they actually, neither of them can vote in the actual election, but they can vote in the primary. So Puerto Rico is going to be voting later on this month in the Democratic primary. So they do vote in the primary, but not in the election, which is kind of a sting. You get to pick who runs, but then you don't get to pick.
But you don't get to pick who wins.
Who actually wins.
Right. Who's going to be your ruler?
It is what it is. Dave Jones says, thank you, Spike. It's rough here in Tennessee. Many folks displaced and in need of help. Donate if you can and help show we can help folks without the threat of government force. Exactly. When people say to us, without government, who would help the poor, help the needy? The answer is we will. And we need to show that. Will McElveen says, no shoe on head, boot maybe. We all know Dementia Joe is winning the nod, shoe on head. I will put the shoe on my head when the couch auction starts, not a second before. Let's see. Will McElveen again says, one thing is sure, Shane Sweeney will back the next one to drop out for the Libertarian Party nomination. That is correct. Shane Sweeney has been impressively, in fact, Shane put Steiner for LP POTUS hashtag. Shane Sweeney, in addition to being wrong about fish, is also trying to actively recruit failed Democrats to join Lincoln Chafee in running for the Libertarian Party nomination as a failed Democrat. And I mean, listen, if we're going to go with Chafee, why not go with Buttigieg? Buttigieg is gay. What else do we have here?
I believe that was my custom Chris Reynolds, personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds,
Oh, is that
attorney
the
at
sound
law.
of a
Pen.
Chris Reynolds pen? You can tell because it's a solid drop.
It's a solid drop.
It's a
It's
good
a
pen.
solid drop. Yeah, that thing just flew right on out of my hand.
Yeah, it's
Um,
I got my pen, and I have one of his there's a name, it's the whatever the brand is, but it's the water bottles.
this thing?
Yes. All of his
Nalgene?
stuff is no, it's not that. It's like thin and
Oh, I know which ones you're talking about, but I
anyway,
can't think of it.
everything he gave us. I mean, usually when you get swag from people, it's nice that they gave it to you, but it's not always the best quality. But it's, free stuff that from your friend or whatever. Everything, all of the Chris Reynolds stuff is like
It's quality.
like top quality
This is-
stuff.
I'm not gonna lie. This is my favorite shirt.
Yeah, it's a really nice shirt.
I
It
try
fits
to only wear it on Tuesdays because I like to have it on for the show.
I know.
but
I
it
keep
is
forgetting. I
really-
keep forgetting to put it on. But I have the 3 shirts, and I absolutely they fit
For
amazingly.
you, he needs a V-neck option so you can show off your chest mane.
I mean, I can always just pull it down.
That's true.
Just give me a
That's
nickel,
true.
and I pull it down. That's how it works.
Do you want to do Cuomo or do you want to do Biden?
Let's knock out the Cuomo thing real quick. So in New York, over actually last night, in the dead of night, it was like 1 a.m. that they passed this thing. The New York Senate passed their Cuomo virus bill, where they basically give the main part is they passed a $40 million emergency spending measure to help with the spread of the coronavirus. They've had at least 2 confirmed cases, and it's a $40 million slush fund that they've given to Cuomo to basically use as he sees fit to battle the coronavirus pandemic in New York. That's not even the beginning to be the worst part of it. There's a problem with the verbiage of the bill because it says that Cuomo would be granted unlimited authority to rule by executive order, superseding local and agency authority and state authority during any declared state emergency, including instances as vague as a storm or as infrequent as volcanic activity. It authorizes him to suspend any law he deems fit and to basically operate as an autocratic dictator without any consultation from the legislature, as well as to determine what qualifies as a public health emergency. So not only is he allowed to do whatever he wants in the case of a public health emergency, he's allowed to define what is a public health emergency. And they gave some guidance on it. It's anything that could potentially lead to the loss of many lives. Well, that's anything that could be, I'm going to suspend everyone's right to own a gun because of the potential for loss of lives. It's a public, we've been hearing for a while from the anti-gun people that it's a public health emergency. Just the sheer number of guns on the street. The way this is worded, he could absolutely, just decide to take everyone's guns if he wanted to, or to try.
Serotonin just commented, so he's king now, and yes,
Yeah, pretty much. He's essentially the king. Anytime he decides something is a public health emergency, he can just literally, like they authorized him to do whatever he wants. We usually screenshot these, types of bills, and we highlight the worst part to show, how terrible this, one part of the law is and how the weasel wording from this one part makes it terrible. This entire bill is about 2 pages long, and there isn't a part that isn't highlightable as a terrible thing. And so it just wasn't even worth it to try to show you all of 2 pages on a screenshot and with yellow highlight on all of it, because all of it's bad. That $40 million, not even a beginning to be the problem. It is now, Cuomo is essentially an autocrat, and whoever replaces him, because I don't think there was a sunset on the rule.
I don't think so.
That whoever is the governor of New York now can govern at will. Like, it is true autocracy, as long as he says that it's a public health emergency. Well, when was the last time that a politician made a major, authoritarian move without claiming that it was to protect the lives of people. So the health chairman, Richard Gottfried, Democrat out of Manhattan, argued that during previous public health emergencies, quote, no governor, no health commissioner ever had occasion to ask for anything like the powers that the governor is asking for in this bill. I think it's important to ask why, what problem does this bill solve? This is Democrats asking why. This is a New York City Democrat saying, hey, wait, why are we doing this? And then also from New York City, from Staten Island, shout out to Staten Island. We got the Vermin Spike 2020 campaign got the endorsement of the only elected libertarian in New York City, representing the great borough of Staten Island. I think that's how you say that. But Senator Andrew Lanza of Staten Island says, vote for this and we're going home. Vote no and you're pro-pandemic. That's not the way it's supposed to be. And that's like, this is a perfect example of the government in the dead of night using fear to make a massive, massive power grab.
Right. And it's 100% accurate because those are the options. It's You vote for this and you go home, or you vote no and you're pro coronavirus.
Yeah. Which is how you would be labeled. Like you voted against the bill to try to stop the coronavirus. Because there's no nuance anymore. No, to go in front of a crowd and say, yeah, I didn't want us to be governed by a dictator. At this point right now, people are so scared that they'd say, I'd rather have a dictator than coronavirus.
Yep.
Which, as we've just go ahead. Sorry.
And a lot of the coronavirus, a lot of the fear of the coronavirus is just being stoked by the media.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why we said it on our show a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
You're not going to die from the You're not going to die from the coronavirus.
I might.
You might.
I might.
Maybe.
I'm on an immunosuppressant for my MS, so I wouldn't die from it, but I might end up in the hospital temporarily because my body don't fight stuff good.
Right.
But I probably wouldn't even die.
Right. But more than likely, you are not going to die from the coronavirus.
Yeah.
More than likely, you're not going to get the coronavirus. Yeah. But if you watch any mainstream media, which it's weird saying that because I try to stay away from it, but
the lamestream media.
The lamestream media. That is all they are reporting on.
Oh.
They don't really care about anything else. They know that people are afraid of this virus, so they continue to push it on you.
So you'll watch it. Yeah.
So you watch. They are just attempting to release dopamine and serotonin in your brain, and what you get from being scared, and then you tune back in and you watch more, and they're like, "Oh, people are afraid of this coronavirus, so let's keep spoon feeding it to them."
Spoon feeding it. Get up to the minute updates on the coronavirus, and what they don't update you on the fact that, for example, there are I think 90,000 confirmed cases and 50,000 or just under 50,000 confirmed recoveries, meaning that of the people and there's probably way more people that actually have it, but their symptoms are so mild that they either don't know they have anything or they just figure they have, the sniffles or whatever and go about their day. They're like, well, it couldn't be coronavirus because I'm just, a little under the weather. So it's clearly not that. And so, but of the people who were sick enough to actually go to a doctor or go to a hospital or whatever, more than half of them have already recovered. At worst, this virus has a 2.3%, somewhere around a 2.3% fatality rate, which is high for a flu-like virus.
Now, and that also depends on where. That's 2.3 in China.
Yep.
In South Korea, it's 0.5%.
Yes. Now in Iran, it's I believe higher than that. But again, that's comparing deaths to confirmed cases. They keep saying, oh, well, a lot of kids haven't gotten this. Well, we know that's not true. The kids have clearly gotten it. They're just not sick. They don't feel bad. What we know about this so far is that anywhere from probably twice as many to even 10 or 20 times as many people as actually have it compared to how many have been confirmed, especially in places like Latin America and sub-Saharan Africa, where they've only recently even begun testing. In the United States right now, unless you are in a major metro area or on the West Coast, if you go to a doctor and say, I'm sick, I don't feel good, and I've been traveling to China, they're going to treat you symptomatically for it. But like, if I went to a doctor up the road, they don't have the equipment to test me for coronavirus. So there are way more people that have it. And I'm not saying that to scare you. It's actually the opposite. If you consider that there are probably 10 times as many people that have it as have been confirmed, that 2.3% death rate goes down to 0.23%, which is about twice as bad as the flu, which is, I mean, people dying is bad. Like we're anti people dying of disease on Muddy Waters Media, but it's now not, I mean, even at 2.3%, it's not the extinction level event that some people think it is. At 0.23%, it's now another bad respiratory illness that, you know, might become a seasonal thing like the flu. But it's not SARS, it's not MERS, it's not Ebola, it's not bird flu, which has like an 80% death rate. It's not swine flu. It's more viral than any of those things, so you're more likely to get it, but you're far less likely to die if you do get it. So it's a bad thing, but at no point, you know what's worse is having a single person in control of the state of New York at whim forever. Because again, I don't believe there's a sunset to this law. Whoever's the governor of New York now can simply declare something to be a public health emergency. They can do whatever they want without any kind of approval from or oversight from anyone. And if you don't think if you think that won't be used for everything moving forward, then you haven't paid attention to the government ever, because that's always what they do. We have an authorization of use of military force that was passed in 2001, signed by voted for by Lincoln Chafee, by the way. But it was to authorize the president to fight the war on terror, mostly for him to go after the Taliban. It is still being used now to start stuff in Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq, if you'll recall, there was this big vote on whether or not to authorize the president to go to war in Iraq. That was a non-binding vote because the president already had the authority to do it. Government takes authority that they're given in fear, like 9/11, something that makes everyone scared and just says, here, take this power so you can keep me safe. And they use it forever.
Yep. So, quick update.
Yes.
They are up to 25% of Election Day precincts reporting in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Biden has taken a narrow lead. He's at 27. Sanders has 24. Bloomberg has 22. Warren has 10. So remember, in all of these states, you need 15% or more in order to get any delegates whatsoever. So right now, you've got Biden, Bernie, and Bloomberg, all, God, the three Bs.
Three B, and it was Buttigieg. It was going to be the Buttigieg. Biden, Bloomberg, Bernie, or Buttigieg.
And if Beto had made it,
oh wow!
If Beto had made it, it would just been
made it. Biden,
the killer bees of the Democratic Party.
The killer bees.
So obviously, keeping an eye on all of the races. Keeping an eye on all the races, like updates are coming in so fast. It's very difficult, and since we do everything on our own, we are taking all the time we can. Now, I haven't seen any Massachusetts.
I'm with 8% reporting, Joe Biden ahead in Massachusetts, 31-28. Again, 8%, not a lot. Still ahead. Massachusetts.
That would be shocking.
Equally possibly shocking, 20%, which is much more than 8% in Texas. Bernie is ahead, 29-22 for Joe Biden in second, with Bloomberg at 18%. Really, really spoiling things for Biden there. If you look,
So, but you have to think Texas is in like 2 different time zones. So you're looking at 2 different. You have 2 different windows of opportunity here. Now,
is Eastern Texas more progressive?
well, Eastern Texas, I think you have Dallas and Austin.
Oh.
Which is going to be more progressive.
Which would make sense, because remember when we were covering the midterm elections and it was looking like Beto was beating Ted Cruz initially. And then as it went on longer, Ted Cruz started pulling ahead and obviously won. But this is a bigger lead for Bernie than Beto ever had.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It appears as though our good friend Bass from the Tube of You is now over on float.app, FLOTE.app.
Oh, nice.
And it's somebody named Bass. I'm assuming it's the same one. And he's commenting. He said that he believes the mortality rate jumped to 3.4% on the coronavirus. And sorry, just got a weird update. And then asked if today is Super Tuesday, which yes, it is.
It is absolutely.
I just got an update from Fox News saying that Bernie won Colorado, which is weird because their polls close at 9 their time. So, I mean, he's going to win Colorado. That's not the shocking.
I wonder if they prematurely released it, because there was another mistaken reporting that Warren has taken the lead in Massachusetts, but it's based on a data entry error in the town of Easton, where she has gotten more votes than the town of Easton has. So it looks like there's some errors going on, brought to you by the Shadow app. No doubt.
So let's say that Biden takes a huge lead, and a lot of people are going to say that Biden is the one, he's the one to beat, and he's going to be impossible to beat because that's who the DNC wants. Biden has a bad history of being Joe Biden. We all know this to be exceptionally true.
Yeah.
So,
like, even worse than, because often Trump is Trump's biggest enemy in terms of optics. But Biden takes it to a completely different level. Because he says stuff that makes you question whether he's still all there.
Right.
Not like his intelligence, but like his presence. Like, is he developing Alzheimer's or dementia? Or is this all just too much for him because he's as old as he is, because he's like 79 or something?
72. He is the youngest Democrat running.
Well, who's the one that's 79?
Bernie.
Oh. Well, Biden just hasn't aged well then, compared to Bernie.
At least the hair plugs in the teeth veneers help, but
they do. I love how Joe Biden has more hair now than he did in 1988.
Yes, when he first ran.
Like when a lot of our viewers weren't born yet.
Right.
He was already almost complete. He had this like absurd layer of fuzz that I'm sure he convinced himself looked like hair, but it did not. And then all of a sudden he had hair again. Not a lot, but definitely more than he had then.
He definitely got some plugs done. But Biden being Biden, as we all know, he is prone to making mistakes.
Yes.
Last week, he said that he was running for Senate. And then if you didn't want to vote for him, vote for the other Biden.
Okay.
Yep. But over the last couple of days, Biden has continued his history of gaffes on the campaign trail.
Oh, yeah.
The first one is the first video we're going to show you here. He's going to flub the words of the Declaration of Independence.
This one's my favorite.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. And then he reminds everybody to vote for him today.
Yeah. So let's play that right now.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by the you know the thing. Look, tomorrow's Super Tuesday, and I want to thank you all.
Did we lose sound on that?
I'm rushing ahead, aren't I? And I want to speak directly to Democrats here in Texas.
No, it's just it was only on the right side. I'm not sure what happened with the audio there.
Oh, gotcha. So yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. So he said, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all the men and women are
created.
What you know the thing.
You know the thing. You know the thing. And then he said, so go out there and support me on Super Thursday. Super Thursday. Yeah, Super Thursday. The very famous, the exceptionally famous voting day.
Of Super Thursday.
Primary day of Super Thursday.
Usually when someone does a misspeak, right? Like they do a gaffe, it's because they start to say something else that sounds similar to the thing that they're saying, right? Like they're making like this like kind of, Freudian slip or whatever. I don't think there's any Super Thursday or anything Thursday. There's not even a Taco Thursday. It's Taco Tuesday.
It's Taco Tuesday.
I would have been way better with him saying, go out there and vote on Taco Tuesday. Because he still was saying something. He was saying something related to Tuesday, A, and B, it has the same kind of flow to it as Super Tuesday. Super Thursday, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
There's nothing there.
Yeah, he was talking about the Super Thursday sale at Wegmans, and just totally he was just very excited about it.
It's hilarious. And so then we have where's that? So then after Beto O'Rourke endorsed Joe, Joe had a little conversation with him in front of the crowd, which went as well as one would expect.
I want to make something clear. I'm going to guarantee you this is not last year's scene of this guy. You're going to take care of the gun problem with me. You're going to be the one that leads this effort. I'm counting on you. I'm counting on you. We need you badly. The state needs you. The country needs you. You're the best. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Which, to have Beto in charge of guns in America is quite possibly the most terrifying thing I have ever heard.
It would be more terrifying in my mind to have someone who is effective in charge of it.
That's fair.
So, I mean, if you can think of someone that you would want to turn the American public, like the idea of putting, I get what you're saying, the idea of putting someone who really just doesn't think you should own a gun in charge of that effort is frightening. When you consider the fact that he and Eric Swalwell are two people who are the best suited to turn the general public against any given thing that they're promoting. So having him in charge of that effort would largely help the pro-gun side because of the type of person he is and how really no one likes him that much. Everyone was happy that he gave Ted Cruz a run for his money, and then it turned out that he was terrible And that's why he was one of the first to drop out, because progressives saw right through him. The establishment saw that he wasn't going to be the least bit effective as a nominee. Everywhere he went got mad that he scuffed up their counters with his shoes. And, he just made a lot of enemies. You don't go everywhere and stand on the tables.
And unsurprisingly, in his endorsement of Biden, he closed it out by saying everything he had just said in English in Spanish.
Everything?
Yeah, it seemed. I kind of skimmed it. I was just looking for that clip.
Right.
El próximo presidente de los Estados Unidos, Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Jose Biden.
Sarah Anderegg is going back to work. She will see us on our next break.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye, Sarah.
Senior Sniffy.
Senior Sneezy.
Senior Sniffy.
Senior Sneezy.
Senior Sniffy.
Right now it's looking as though. Oh yeah, man, the Davidson County where Nashville is. Again, shout out to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I used to live there. Love that city. Hope everybody is okay there. And if any of my friends from Nashville happen to be watching, give me a call. Just let me know you're okay. But because of what happened in Davidson County, a lot of people aren't going to be able to make it out to vote. It says, but maybe a potentially good sign for Biden.
Oh, because that's like sort of the progressive hub would be in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Or
preliminary exit polls. 48% of Tennessee voters said they would return to Obama's policies.
Which is that's Biden.
Biden.
Biden is the idea of Obama being normalcy and a return to Biden being normalcy, or being a return to that normalcy. With 6% in Colorado coming in, 8% in Colorado coming in. I thought they closed at 9. It must have been that they closed at 8 their time, but that would still be 10 this time.
Right, they must have closed at 7, so it must have been 9 our time.
But so with 8% in, Bernie Sanders at 39%. With 0% in, Joe Biden at 43%, no doubt helped by Amy Klobuchar, who I believe when she dropped out, I saw something that showed that she was still in the lead there for election day.
Where?
In Minnesota, in her state.
Yes.
And
so it was kind of a toss up between Bernie and Klobuchar.
Well, now Joe. Now this again with 0% in, but he is now. He's at 43%. So again, that can change, but he's way ahead. 10% in Arkansas reporting. Joe Biden's ahead 25-24 in Tennessee. With 28% in, he's ahead. Joe's ahead 34-24. With 0% in Alabama, still Joe Biden ahead 60-16 with Bloomberg in second. 10% of Oklahoma reporting in Oklahoma. Joe Biden is up 30%-21 to Bernie. In Maine and Massachusetts, Joe Biden's still ahead in the 30s. And in Texas, Bernie Sanders still ahead of Joe, but like we were saying, that could tighten up. North Carolina, Joe is killing it 36-24. Vermont, of course, Bernie way ahead 51-24. And in Virginia, it was already called for Joe, but with 99% reporting, Joe got 53%. Again, American Samoa, Michael Bloomberg just destroyed it there in the old American.
Yeah, it says 99% of precincts reporting in Virginia. Is that the one you just did?
Yeah. 50. Okay. He's ahead 53-23.
Yeah.
Now, 12 hours ago, and of course, obviously, this is all subject to change now with the actual results having come in. But 12 hours ago, 538 predicted that no one would get the majority of delegates before the convention. The odds of that happening were 3 and 5, so 60% odds that no one was going to get it. Meaning that it would go down to a brokered convention, which is going to favor the establishment candidate over Bernie, especially if the establishment candidate comes in with more delegates than Bernie, because then they have a compelling reason to say, hey, we picked the one with more delegates. If Bernie comes in, they can still screw him for some other reason, but ultimately they can pick whoever they want. The odds of Biden getting the majority before the convention, so he just wins outright, is 3 in 10. So there is a 90% chance that either no one is going to get the majority and win the nomination outright without any brokering, or that Biden's going to get it without any brokering. Sanders getting the majority, 1 in 12 chance, and then the rest are less than 1 in 100. So
Yeah.
it's either going to be a brokered convention that Bernie gets screwed in, or Biden's going to win outright at this point.
So it's either going to be a brokered convention that one of them gets screwed in, or Biden wins outright.
Right.
Because I don't see it where, like, right now, and a lot can change. Like, there's still a lot of primary season left, but because I think after tonight we have 2/3 of the primary left.
Right.
So right now it looks like Biden is going to be up in the lead by the end of tonight. Still could change, lots. There's even a lot of tonight left, but if he ends up in the lead by tonight, it's going to look as though he's going to be the one that's going to take it, because the Joementum is going to be strong. Whether or not he gets the majority of delegates is different, and there is zero guarantee that the DNC chooses Biden. They're more likely to choose Biden than Bernie.
Oh yeah. But
if it goes through that second round and he doesn't have the 2375, anybody can throw their hat in, and then it becomes a free-for-all. And could be Biden, or it could be literally anybody else in the DNC.
Yeah, at that point, it could be anyone else. And there may be some appetite to just ditch Biden for Bloomberg, or I don't think it's going to be any of the other people that ran, honestly. I think if they go outside of Biden or Bloomberg, it's going to be Hillary Clinton or Michelle Obama, or someone that isn't even being discussed right now, or hasn't been contending for this race to begin with. Can you think of anyone in the field besides Biden and Bloomberg that actually have run that they would go with?
No.
I mean, it would be a terrible argument to make, because these are people that dropped out because they couldn't, they didn't have the chops for it. Even Buttigieg, he's dropped out and gone with Biden now. So yeah, I don't see a scenario where they go with any of the people that have already run instead of Bernie or Biden. I think it would ever go, it would be either Biden or Bloomberg, or they now go with someone else. But I mean, they're going to screw Bernie if they can. If Bernie does not get the majority of delegates, they are going to screw him, because
if he gets the plurality, if he doesn't get the plurality of delegates, they aren't screwing him.
Well, yeah, they're just giving it to whoever got. But he's gonna not win it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Unless he,
no matter what, he is not winning.
Yeah, unless he gets, which is now a less than 1 in 12 chance, which is still possible. Unless he gets the majority of delegates going into the convention, he's not going to get it, because the DNC is looking at boomers who will stay home. They will stay home, or they will vote for Trump. Because they're not, I don't think a lot of them are going to vote third party. Those are the people who say you're throwing your vote away, but then they'll stay home and not vote. But I think
ABC just called Tennessee for Biden.
Oh. Welp.
Which, according to our stats, I have commanding lead, but it's still early. So, but I said that Biden would pull that one. But less than literally yesterday, Bernie was in the lead in that state.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how all these forecasts update after this. I think they're all going to pull in Biden's favor. I still don't think Biden's going to get the majority, but I may be wrong. I mean, if Joementum is a thing and the polls didn't have time to... Because, I mean, the people that dropped out in and of themselves didn't have enough of the vote to make a difference for their own, campaigns. But both of them dropping out and then all these people endorsing Joe, and there wasn't really enough time to update polling to see how that would work for them. But if 80 or 90% of Buttigieg and Klobuchar's supporters flipped for Biden over Bernie, which is very likely to happen in the case of an endorsement right afterwards, this now became Biden's race to lose. And that would not reflect in polling immediately because there's just not enough time to update all the polling to reflect that. But there's time for us to see it in real time when people actually show up and vote. So I am very interested. I mean, maybe...
apparently we missed it, but Oklahoma was called for Biden as well.
That doesn't surprise me. He is... Like, if you look at the races, with the exception of Massachusetts and Maine, which he is still ahead in Massachusetts and Maine, now with 11% reporting in Massachusetts and 9% reporting in Maine. Joe Biden way outperforming how he was expected to do there. In Texas, it's still 29-22 for Bernie. Very interesting development there.
So with that, especially that one, Biden wasn't supposed, we didn't have Biden predicting to win Texas by a lot.
Right.
We're talking like 1-2 delegates max difference between the two.
Right.
So no matter what happens there, they're going to be so close. It's not going to make that big of a delegate count difference. We just know that they are going to get the lion's share of delegates from Texas.
Right. Yeah. No, it's not going to make a huge difference. What will make a huge difference is... Oh, no, Bernie's now ahead in Maine. With 10% reporting, he's now ahead 35-34. But in Massachusetts, Biden still at 30, still ahead by 5 points. That will be an interesting one. If somehow Joe Biden, I don't see it happening. I can't see that happening.
Serotonin says, I'm so mind blown. Biden is going to lose to Trump, which I think, in all honesty, not a Trump fan. I think any Democratic candidate loses to Trump. I honestly believe that. She says, I hope Bernie runs in 2024. That would make him, I think, 83.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But I here's the thing. I still say I say this totally anecdotally, seeing the level of energy when I went to a Bernie rally was comparable to the energy I've seen at a Trump rally, and in size as well. I could see Bernie beating Trump, especially if these...
You're not going to get the boomer vote.
I don't... Maybe not, but here's the thing, Matt. If between now and November, this, what we're being told is stock market correction because of the coronavirus ends up turning into a bubble correction, and we start seeing real... Because what we haven't seen yet is the reality of the fact that we haven't been getting goods shipped to us from China the way we usually do, anywhere near it. And you're going to start seeing shortages of stuff, and you're going to start seeing panic. And in that kind of perfect storm of people freaking out about, are they going to die of this foreign disease? And are they going to be able to find toilet paper? And are they going to be able... All of the arguments against socialism are going to be somewhat out the window in that moment. Well, you can't vote for socialism because it'll destroy everything. And everyone's going to be looking around, seeing everything destroyed and go, well, we got to try something different. And Bernie will be able to say, Donald Trump oversaw this economy falling apart and we're all dying of coronavirus and I'm going to fix all this and give you health care.
I think yesterday was the largest day for the stock market in history.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. It could bounce back. It could be that this was a temporary whatever, but there's also a thing called the bull trap where people go, "Oh, there's a bargain. I'm going to buy now." I will be very interested to see what the economy looks like come May or June, and if it really is, if a combination of coronavirus pandemic panic, shortages of goods, especially. So I was talking with someone who's a part of the Physicians for a Free Market, I think it's what they're called. Something like 85% of the products, medical products that are used in hospitals come from China, which is not surprising. 85% of most stuff comes from China. They're not getting any stuff at a time when they're going to desperately need it. So a lot could change.
Which is why the Attorney General said, please stop buying masks.
Right, exactly. If we have a spring and summer of existential dread and shortages and people being told to stay home so they don't get a disease, everything changes. Like it really changes people's concept of what they're willing to accept. And it could, I mean, if it got bad enough, they could actually suspend the election temporarily. I don't see that happening. But you could have a situation where people vote against Trump en masse just because they're associating Trump with a horror that no one except maybe people who lived during the 1918 flu pandemic, which there aren't a lot of them. You'd have to be 102 plus to have even been alive during it. I don't think there's anyone alive who would have been old enough to actually remember the last time we experienced something that led to this level of panic, disease-wise. It changes a lot of things. So, all things being equal and normal, I don't see anyone beating Trump. We're about to not experience normal stuff.
Right.
So it'd be very interesting to see.
With Maine, how many were you reporting before?
I don't remember, but now it's at 11%. Bernie is ahead 35 to 34.
So from NPR, I have 26% reporting, with Biden at 34.3, Sanders at 34.
And with what percent reporting?
26. And then in Massachusetts, with 19% reporting, I've got 33.7, with Sanders with 28, Warren with 20. Which, if Joe Biden starts winning the Northeast,
if Joe Biden
he's winning New England.
If he wins New England,
Robin Dominic says, I'm going to lick people at the convention. Please don't.
I don't know if that, I mean, let's be clear. 2 months from now is about when they're saying it's going to be true panic mode where, they're telling people to stay home. They might not do the convention. Like, I still have all my travel plans, but they might not do it. Like, we sometimes get into this normalcy bias of like, well, yeah, I'm going to do it. I might get canceled. I mean, if you look at what's happening in places like Japan and South Korea or whatever, anything that's not an essential thing has been canceled. It's not happening. Italy's starting to do that too. Iran is doing that as well. Like, they're not doing cultural events, and they're not doing, and the next step after that is like, yeah, we're not doing political party stuff either. Like, we're really just not encouraging a bunch of people to get together and shake hands and cough on each other and sneeze on each other. Because that's how this thing spreads. The good news about this is that it's not like the common cold where it actually aerosolizes and is in the air. The common cold, next to no one dies of it. It's pretty much like a 0% death rate. But it's like super, super easy to get. We have different levels of natural immunity to it, but it's actually in the air. It actually aerosolizes and spreads around in the air. Whereas this thing doesn't do that. It's on droplets from when you cough and sneeze. So it's on either if you're close enough to someone and they cough and sneeze on you and then you touch your face or whatever, or if it's on surfaces of things you touch. So if you're really like OCD fastidious about it, you can actually go to public events and be fine. The problem is most people are nasty as hell. And not, I shouldn't even say nasty. A lot of people are nasty as hell, like don't wash their hands after they use the bathroom. But even just from normal people who aren't that nasty, a lot of people don't use Purell every time they've shaken someone's hand or every time they've touched anything, because it seems it seems like overkill. With this, it's not overkill. It would actually be smart to do that. I'm going to be very interested to see what late April and May and June look like. Thankfully, my favorite activity is going out in the ocean, which is a bunch of salt water, and being left the hell alone to swim for hours at a time. So if everything gets canceled, I just get to go do my favorite thing out in the most sterile place possible. And I already have enough canned goods for like ever.
So a lot of people have been wondering about Bloomberg and what happens to him after today. Does he stay in? Does he not stay in? Does he drop? He just paid $7 million, which to him is absolutely nothing. But he just paid $7 million for post Super Tuesday ads.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. Bloomberg's going to be there until convention.
Bloomberg is waiting for there to not be a delegate lead. He's waiting for a brokered convention where he can show up and say, "Hey guys, I can spend $5 billion on my presidential campaign, not take a penny from you, let you spend all of your money that you bring in solely on down ballot candidates, Senate, governor, state Senate, city council, all that stuff. Spend it entirely on that. I can self-fund my campaign entirely and still be like the 10th richest man or 15th richest man or whatever on earth. Like, I can spend money that has never been spent before in a presidential election myself and it not really affect my bottom line all that much." And if you think that isn't a compelling argument to career political party hack operatives, then I don't want to say that. But you're wrong. Let me say that.
Do you want to do? We've got multiple calls from Chris Reynolds. Do you want to do one now?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and do that because I that'll give time for other stuff to update.
Right.
Let's do. So now is an episode, or now is our favorite segment, the personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call-in moment, where Chris Reynolds
theme song, just like a jingle for that.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call-in moment. It will be better than that, but
I don't think it should be.
Was that about that was
it would kind of go along with a lot of the other stuff that we do around here.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And by that you mean I sing amazingly.
You do.
Thank you.
You absolutely do. You have the voice of an angel.
I appreciate that. A fallen angel? Was there more to that, or
no? Just an angel.
Oh, well, thank you. So here is the first one from personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds, attorney at law.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with your most important news of the week, which obviously is the recent announcement by, I believe it was Princeton, to have Marshawn Lynch as one of their speakers, I believe, at their class day, whatever that is. Obviously, Marshawn Lynch, one of the more modern philosophers of our time. But I was wondering what you guys thought about that selection. Is he going to get up there and just say things like, "I'm only here so I don't get fined"?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
What can we expect from a Marshawn Lynch speak, and what do you guys think of this selection? Thanks.
All I know about Marshawn Lynch is that he does interviews where he says, "I'm just doing this so I don't get fined," and that's pretty much all I know. So I hope that's what he does, because that will be funny. We'll get to cover that.
Yeah, Marshawn Lynch is he's famously introverted. For a football player, that's just really weird to say, but he is. He's famously introverted.
Yeah.
And to have him as one of the speakers, I mean, if that's what they want, cool, but I can't imagine why.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick. I would have gone with Richard Sherman.
Oh yeah, no,
Who
I'd go
would,
with Richard.
like, go
Sherman.
there and scream. And
So-
he's actually he's college educated and everything, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he got a communications degree from I think Oregon.
Right.
But yeah, Marshawn Lynch he did a guest episode on the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I remember that they were really excited about the fact that it was Marshawn Lynch, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's not going to say anything. It's going to be great trying to get him to talk." And then he just kept talking, and he never shut up.
Well, maybe that's what will happen here. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's who he really is, and he just doesn't like talking to the press.
Maybe he doesn't like talking to people because he has to.
Could be.
Which
I
is,
don't like talking to people
when I have to, right? I like talking to people in general, but when I have to, it's like, hey,
Right.
how you doing? It's good to see you. So maybe he's that way too. Here is our next. You want to do another one?
Yeah, do another one.
All right. So
There's nothing new coming in right now.
All right. Here we will go with we have a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, no, he hit us hard today.
We changed the game. Hold on.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with your AOC Millennial Minute. So with the recent dropouts of some of the other Democratic primary contenders and good old Mayor Petey and Amy Klobuchar, and some endorsements of good old Joe Biden. The momentum of the populist darling that is Bernie Sanders has slowed. And I don't know what's going to happen today with the voting on Super Tuesday, but there's a lot of people talking about, it's basically Bernie or bust. And to me, that seems like that is a sure way to ensure that Donald Trump stays in the presidency. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the whole Bernie or bust mentality.
So,
go ahead.
So for anybody who doesn't know, it's a lot of the Bernie bras, which is the California version of a Bernie bro, if you don't know. A lot of the Bernie bra, they are the Bernie brethren for the more religiously inclined, maybe. They are saying they're going to vote for Bernie, and if it's not Bernie, they're not voting for anybody.
Right.
And as we can see, like Bernie is polling pretty much traditionally at about 23-24%.
Yep.
Among people who are likely to vote that are registered Democrats.
Right.
This doesn't include independents and people who would normally vote third party.
Right.
But that is how he polls amongst Democrats. Now, let's say that half of those people are Bernie bras. If you lose 15% of your potential electorate, you're out. Like, you're out. And I understand what you're doing. You want Bernie, and you don't. It's not that you want Bernie. It's that you believe in a movement that Bernie is creating. It's very much like Ron Paul. I mean, the movements are completely different, but the mentality of
the mentality of it's either Ron or nothing. Yeah. Yep.
Right. Same thing with third party voters. You're going to be looking at like Libertarian Party, the Green Party. You are looking to push a movement as opposed to trying to defeat a candidate or push a candidate.
Yep.
So the Bernie bros, the Bernie brethren, they are saying, it's going to be Bernie or it's going to be nobody. And I respect that. But at the same time, this is somebody who's voted Libertarian since like 2008. But at the same time, you are definitely going to cost the Democrats the election if you do that.
More than likely, yes. Here's the thing. We have a ton of. I wish I'd kept it in the sequence here so I could show it again. But we have a ton of, the Vermin Spike campaign has a ton of Yang Gang and Bernie Bro supporters. The Yang Gang have we've probably gotten a quarter of the Yang Gang people, at least, already, that have actually joined the team or are actively promoting us on social media. Don't think we're going to get a lot of Buttigieg or Klobuchar people, but Bernie Bros are already actively supporting us with the idea that if Bernie doesn't get it, they're voting for Vermin Supreme. And by the way, that doesn't mean they're voting Libertarian. That means if Bernie's not on the ballot and he can't, run because of sore loser laws or whatever, and Vermin's not on the ballot, they're either writing in Bernie or they're writing in Vermin just to spite everyone. All of that to say that they don't see, this isn't about, vote blue no matter who does not resonate with them. We have to stop Trump at all costs does not resonate with them. To them, yep. Joe Biden is every bit as bad as Trump. Buttigieg or Bloomberg. I mean, and really with Bloomberg is every bit as bad as Trump. Anything you could say about Trump, Bloomberg is at least as bad from any standpoint, progressive, conservative, authoritarian, libertarian, whatever argument you want to make, any negative thing you want to say about Trump, Bloomberg is at least as bad. So that's a unique moment where we can all come together and agree that he's terrible. But they're similar to libertarians in that they don't see this as a, we must stop Trump. That's the most important thing, because to them, they want to stop everyone that they hate, including every Democrat, almost every Democrat except for Bernie and like the squad and like, the hardcore progressive Democratic socialist members of the party. And, they don't give a crap if it's Biden. If it ends up being Biden versus Trump, they don't care if Trump wins. Right. Again, similar to libertarians. People get frustrated with libertarians and they go, well, you're costing Trump the election. And to which I always say, well, why don't you think I'm costing Bernie the election? Like, what makes you think I'd vote for Trump over Bernie? I wouldn't vote for either of them. But, like, why would you think I'd vote for either? And Bernie Bros I talk with them constantly on especially on Twitter. By the way, join me on Twitter at Real Spike Cohen. Join me on Facebook at literally Spike Cohen. But that's my VP pages on Twitter and Facebook. But I'm talking with Bernie Bros way more than I ever thought I would. Way more, like a lot. And one thing that I've noticed, it's the exact same theme as with libertarians. They don't care. They don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican. They want Bernie, or they'll vote for Vermin Supreme. They don't even care what our serious policies are. Some of them ask and they get interested, but a lot of them are like, yeah, we don't care what you are. You can run as whatever. We're going to vote for you just because that'll really piss off people the most if Bernie doesn't get it. And that's, it's a reason to vote Vermin vote for Vermin in Austin if they don't cancel it because of coronavirus. But it's also a reason to understand that they don't care if Donald Trump wins. So, do you want to do another one? Or go ahead.
Sure. But yeah, that is what a lot of people are going to be saying about. That's what a lot of people are going to be saying about Trump, especially Bernie Bros. They do not care if Trump wins re-election. If the DNC is perceived in their mind to have screwed Bernie out of this election again, Sarah, I'm talking to you specifically. If they are perceived to have screwed Bernie out of this election again, they will not vote for Biden or Bloomberg or whoever else happens to get. They will 100% vote Green Party, vote right in Bernie.
Yep.
Or not vote.
Yep. Or vote for Vermin or whatever. They're not going to vote Democrat. And let's be clear, at this point, anything short of a Bernie win, they will see as Bernie being screwed. So even if Joe Biden just turns this thing around and comes in with a majority of the delegates, or with such a large, so much more delegates than anyone else, even if it's not the majority, that they end up deciding to give it to Biden because he's got, 300 more delegates than anyone else, they're going to see that as Bernie getting screwed. Let's remember that Hillary Clinton went into the Democratic convention with more delegates than Bernie. Now, We also know that she was being fed answers at the debates, and there was all sorts of shenanigans going on in the background. And it's because of that anything other than Bernie winning is going to be perceived by his most hardcore supporters as being him being screwed. And it could and they might very well be correct. Whether they're correct or not doesn't matter. It's what they perceive it to be. They perceive it to be that it's either Bernie wins or Bernie got screwed the Democrats. We're going to vote for, Vermin, Green Party, DSA, not vote. Some might even spitefully vote for Trump. You're dealing with some people that are very, very similar to the Yang Gang people. People didn't understand the Yang Gang people, and they were a much smaller group than the Bernie people. It was Yang or nothing. They didn't give a damn about the other Democrats. And they especially hated the more progressive ones, which is very interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's how it's going to go. One of the people in Team Vermin is a Bernie bro, and he's supporting Bernie in the Democratic contest, but he's also pretty sure that Bernie's going to get screwed. So he's already working with us. He's already whipping, Bernie supporters to, become Vermin supporters if and when Bernie gets screwed. And is already trying to help us in the Libertarian contest for that eventuality, because he recognizes that Bernie's probably not going to get it. And every day he posts his daily reminder that if you want to defeat Trump, you have to nominate Bernie Sanders. And I happen to think he's probably correct. I think any Democrat that has, and even with Bernie's massive problems with boomers, I think you have an even more massive problem and an ongoing problem even past this election if you continue to piss off young voters. Which is why, again, the Libertarian Party needs to nominate me and Vermin Supreme, because we have an opportunity to flip an entire generation of left-leaning progressive voters into libertarianism by using a beloved character that they follow on social media. But God forbid we, try to win over people.
What you're saying about Bernie before you went on the
Vermin thing.
What you were saying about Bernie, yeah, the boomers, they have a huge problem with boomers.
Yeah.
And it was said in the comments that boomers are going to vote blue no matter who. That is not actually accurate. They will not vote for people that they perceive to be socialists.
Yeah.
A vast majority of them will not. A recent Reuters poll came out that said 52% of Americans will not vote for somebody who says that they are socialist or believes in socialist ideals. That you're already looking at the fact that you are out of 52% of America.
Right.
I don't know if that's voting America or not. So that could just be all of America, even including the people who don't vote.
I would assume that it's at least registered voters, if not also likely voters. Yeah.
That's what I would assume.
Yeah.
But you're fighting an uphill battle, because granted, you only need 44% to win, as Trump showed us. But you're going to have to be looking at that in areas where most of these 52% live.
Swing states where that's, because I guarantee you Wisconsin, that number's way higher than 52%.
Oh, yeah.
The reason that number is even as low as if you take out New York and California and New England, all of a sudden that number, and I guess maybe Washington State or DC and Hawaii, so
Washington State's actually a pretty conservative state, minus Seattle.
Right? But if you take out the hardcore blue states that they already know that they're going to win and run up these major vote numbers, in the actual states that matter in terms of the electoral vote, it's way higher than that. And so no, I have said from the beginning, I think the Democrats are uniquely screwed because Trump has been able to create a really weird coalition based entirely on a cult of personality around him, meaning he can shapeshift politically and they don't care. They just believe in Trump as the strongman that's going to save them. The Democrats have to create a standard coalition against that. And it's hard because their coalition is divided between establishment boomers who vote Democrat because their parents voted Democrat, so they vote Democrat, but they could just as easily vote Republican or not vote if it goes too far to the left, and hardcore progressive, far left voters who are voting on a class warfare standard socialist. They're voting for democratic socialism. They're voting for socialist and communist accelerationism. Those are like the standard Bernie voters. Then you've got and these are the ones that are also seeming to go behind Biden. You've got a lot of minority voters that are voting on minority-specific interest, civil rights issues and things like that. Another group that the Libertarian Party ignores at its peril, but God forbid we reach out. God forbid we get out of the convention room and talk to the people in the lobby. Anyway, so you've got that group. So you've got a really weird coalition that and blue collar voters that are in unions who are increasingly going to Trump. So it's a really weird mishmash you have to hold together, and all of their candidates deeply offend one or more of the groups that they need to build that. And Bloomberg somehow offends them all, which is fun. But so no, I mean I think that this is. We've said from the beginning we think this is Trump's to lose. I will, with the caveat that if we go into a massive bubble correction and pandemic at the same time, where we're looking at a world that is temporarily worse than anything any of us that are alive have ever experienced, that changes the calculus entirely, and it's completely up in the air what could happen then, including the election being temporarily suspended. But I short of that, I think you end up having a massive vote for change, which is probably going to look like people voting Democrat because they're not the ones in charge. But it could also look, and again, going back to because I'm running for office as a libertarian, it also could be a major opportunity for people to vote completely outside the Democratic and Republican narrative paradigm. But it's going to require a candidate that even gets attention.
Real quick, the New York Times has now upgraded Minnesota. They aren't calling it yet, but now they're saying very likely Biden.
Okay.
And this is actually very huge. If Biden wins Minnesota, thanks to the endorsement from Klobuchar and Mayor Pete, who are both, Midwesterner Democrats. Yep. This will push Biden ahead in later primary states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Indiana. He's going to get a huge jump because of this. Yeah. They're going to follow suit with Minnesota. This is huge for Biden. And
it's also I'm sorry, go ahead.
And initially, like in the notes, literally what I have for Minnesota, Bernie's projected to win, but she endorsed Biden, so the majority of her supporters who didn't vote early, and that was a big portion of that, who didn't vote early may go to Biden.
Which is what's happening, yeah.
Right. Our prediction was 55% of the delegates for Bernie, 35 for Joe. That's my prediction, not our prediction, and the rest distributed between the other two. This is looking like it is going to be absolutely wrong. And that is huge news for Biden because if he starts pulling the Midwest, he could catapult himself all the way up to 1991 first ballot. When
you frickin' numpty dumps were out there talking about how we were stupid for thinking Biden was going to get this because Biden's dumb and he's segregationist and, oh, come on, look at this Joementum. Remember that, guys? That was less than a year ago. Remember that? We were sitting here standing steadfast saying Joe Biden's going to get this. Remember after Iowa and New Hampshire? And they were going, oh, this is Bernie's. What do you guys have to say to that? What do you have to say to that? Now look. Stop thinking we're not going to be right about everything.
Right. We're going to be right.
We're going to be right.
We're definitely going to be right.
Especially on this kind of stuff. We're going to be right.
We're trying to find notes from that far back.
We're sometimes wrong, but we're going to be right. We called like all of the major contests on the midterms.
What's really
hours or even days before they were called.
For anybody who doesn't know, this is how I used to do the notes for the show. They used to be all handwritten in a notebook, and now we have updated. Yeah, it's right here.
That's interesting.
And now we have updated to using actual decent technology,
like
so
the
both of us
internet.
can
Yeah,
spend.
yeah,
Yeah,
and word
thanks to the internet.
processors. Yeah.
Trying to find. I know that in one of the many notebooks that I have around here, I have our. I think I have it dated too.
Oh, our
Um,
predictions that we made. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Joe Biden still ahead, holding on
yeah,
to a very small lead in Maine with 25% reporting, with a 7-point lead in Massachusetts. If he wins Massachusetts, here is the thing, guys. More important than him winning Massachusetts is just a flex on Bernie. Him winning
right.
Midwestern states and Southeastern states is what actually matters, not just from a delegate standpoint, but from a delegate count standpoint, but from how the operatives are going to look at things, because those are the states you need to win. Bernie Sanders can win 90% of the vote in traditional blue states, and it won't matter if he underperforms in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Minnesota, in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in Iowa, in Nebraska. Well, Nebraska's pretty red, but in those types of states, in Texas, which is not quite a swing state, but you can do pretty well there. In Florida, if Biden wins those kinds of states, even if Bernie kills it in California, which it's looking like that's going to possibly be close if Texas is, even if Biden kills it in those places, or Bernie kills it in those places, if Biden edges him out, like he did to Buttigieg, in the states that matter on election day, that's going to be a serious, argument, real serious rational argument in favor of going with Biden over Bernie, which is what we said last year.
So right now, as of 2 minutes ago, Maine's continuing to count its votes, with Biden now enjoying. Another state apparently just got called for Biden. I'll have to look that one up real quick. Enjoying a lead of less than a percentage point in Maine. Lewiston, Maine, which is the second largest city, has now reported, and Biden's victory there closely matched his current margin in the state. He won 33.7% of the vote to 32.3%. So Maine is not off the table for anybody, but there's definitely the chance of
Biden
Biden winning it, which will be huge.
It will be huge. He'll be flexing. That's just flexing on him. I assume Maine is a state where the delegates are split proportionally, so there's not going to be a huge difference delegate wise whether Bernie wins by a point or two or Biden wins by a point or two. It's just the bragging rights of being able to say, I just beat Bernie Sanders in his backyard. And in Massachusetts, that will be a freaking flex. That will be a hard flex to say, I beat Bernie Sanders in the capital of New England. I mean, Massachusetts is the most populous state in New England with the most populous city in New England. It's not even close. When people say New England, they think Massachusetts. Like, that would be a gigantic flex to the Biden campaign. One that I don't think was anyone anticipating that.
No, nobody was anticipating that. It was between Bernie and Warren in Massachusetts. Like, it could have gone either way, but it looked like Bernie was going to take it, and it was going to be really funny because Bernie was going to bitch slap Warren in her home state.
Yeah. Well, now it's looking like she's going to come in third.
Right. Now it's looking like she could come in third and just get demolished by two rich old white guys.
Which could help Bernie, because for her to come in third in her own state, there is going to be some serious pressure on her on the progressive wing to drop out. Because for her to say,
Arkansas.
What's that?
Sorry, I was thinking out loud. I'm betting Arkansas was just called for Biden, is what I'm betting.
That probably so. Joe Biden ahead in Minnesota and Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma, Maine, Massachusetts, North Carolina, and Virginia have already been called for him. So far, Vermont has been called for Bernie. Oh, and Colorado. Colorado and Vermont have been called for Bernie, his home state, in Colorado.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So according to NPR, Biden projected to win Minnesota.
That makes, I mean, the numbers here reflect that. So, which
and then
is
in Texas.
All of these forecasts that we were looking at did not anticipate him winning Minnesota. So
No, not one of them.
that 3-10, he's probably going to have, I'm guessing he's going to have close to even odds when all's said and done tonight of winning the majority of delegates before the convention, coming into the convention, which will make him the presumptive nominee. And there will be no argument for why he shouldn't be. Well, it's not even a matter of argument. That's the rules, right? They're bound in the first. The candidates are the delegates are bound by the results of their state primaries in the first round, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if there's an argument or not. He's going to just automatically get it.
Right.
And that Sanders 1-12 is probably going to drop to even less than 1-12, meaning he's going into a brokered convention that he will not win, especially if, again, the only shot he has, if he doesn't get the majority, is to not just have more delegates than anyone else, but to have a fairly good commanding lead of the delegates. That doesn't look like it's going to happen anymore.
So what it's looking like in Texas is that Bernie Sanders is winning more of the rural. That's so weird. Like, it says only 10% reporting here, but it
says 35% where I'm looking.
Where are you looking?
On 538.
Oh, okay. What do you got there?
With 35% reporting, Bernie Sanders at 29%, Joe Biden at 23%, Michael Bloomberg at 19%.
That is what I have at 10% reporting here. But the New York Times upshot, they are still saying that Texas is leaning Biden. They haven't switched that yet.
Really?
So they have to, so they have to know areas are being, what areas are being counted right now.
Okay. But you just said Bernie's outperforming in rural areas.
Well, I was trying to figure it out in my head, and then I had to stop that sentence because I don't know if that's right.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so God, that is so weird that Bernie. It's not weird that Bernie's doing that well in Texas. It's weird that with Bernie doing so well, the New York Times is still saying that it's slightly leaning Biden
in Texas.
In Texas,
that has to mean that the western side of the state is way more conservative,
right?
And here's the thing with Massachusetts. What are they saying about Massachusetts? Are they saying Bernie's still ahead there, or?
Let me switch back to that.
Because I just wonder if it's like Boston gets counted way after or something.
So there you've got, with 34% reporting, 34% for Biden, 27 for Sanders, 20 for Warren.
Right, but do they say like who they give the edge to there?
Let me go back over to that one. Wait, let me just see the free thing.
Bernie back ahead in Maine, by the way, with 32% reporting.
Massachusetts says maybe Biden.
Really?
Yeah.
If he wins Minnesota and Massachusetts, this race, I wish you people would listen to us from now on. Some of y'all had me doubting myself a little after New Hampshire. I'm like, wow, maybe Biden just really is going to crash and burn. I shouldn't have second-guessed myself.
If everything works out the way it is right now, Biden will get 620 delegates tonight. 620 delegates tonight.
Now, what are the
Which I
odds?
think
Go ahead.
that was option 2,
Yeah.
ranking in over 600 delegates, Bernie around 400, which he'd get 574 because the other 2 would just get trounced, that's what's going to happen.
Well, so that was actually more like, what was that, prediction number 3 or 4?
4.
Where it's
Yeah.
just Bernie and Biden walking away with it, and we missed you too, Sean. Where's my notes? Where are my notes? Here. Where, yeah, 4, prediction number 4, that this just becomes Biden and Bernie's race, and the other 2 get almost nothing, which is what it's looking like. It's looking like Warren's going to get next to nothing, and Bloomberg got American Samoa. But it's looking like they're going to... Yeah, it's looking like option 4 is what's going to happen. Everyone's coalescing around the socialist candidate and the anti-socialist candidate.
Right.
But that it's working for Bernie or for Biden. So no one predicted an outcome in which Biden won Minnesota and Bloomberg won American Samoa.
Right.
That didn't come up in any prediction.
American Samoa.
There was no computer model that showed that happening. That was not considered likely for those 2 things to happen. And yet here we are.
No, every computer model that I saw on American Samoa had Biden at 36%, Bernie at 35.5%, and then the rest was just kind of split up.
So Bloomberg killing it in American Samoa. Interesting thing there is with it being that close, he stole it from both of them equally, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, but so Tulsi Gabbard came in second there with 29%.
Really?
Yeah. But she's Hawaiian.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean...
Interesting territory, American Samoa, apparently.
Apparently. But you know what? Good Kava there. Really good Kava over there in American Samoa.
So a lot of muddied voters over there.
So, to the American Samoans out there, Bula
Vanaka to American
Bula
Samoa.
Vanaka for completely throwing us for a loop.
Why the hell not? Good for them.
Why not?
I cannot wait for this Democrat primary forecast to update, which I'm sure they're waiting to the end for that. Now, Matt, what do you think the odds are that California is going to be so horrified by what they're witnessing in other states that you're going to see this massive move over to Bernie, sort of like defensive voting for Bernie? Or are there even enough people on the fence for that to even happen or make a difference?
So again, like we said earlier, more than half the voters vote by mail.
Oh, yeah.
So 50% of them have already voted, and it had to be postmarked today. So that meant that actually about probably an hour and 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago? I can't do math. 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago when the post office closed at 5, that was when all votes had to be in.
Right.
Now, everybody kind of knew about Virginia and North Carolina and Vermont. You kind of knew which way those were going. You knew that Arkansas, which I think just was called, was going to go Biden. But Maine and Massachusetts, you thought that was going to be more of a race between Bernie and Warren.
Yeah.
And that nobody saw that Biden was going to be in it. So 50% of these people, and you have to remember, of these 50%, at least 20% of that 50, I can't do math that well, 7.5 to 10% of those people, or of the entire people that voted for Buttigieg, Klobuchar, or somebody else that dropped out. So you're looking at 20% of the voting block that's gone.
Yep.
20% of the voting block gone, voting for people who are no longer running. So people who are showing up to the polls today, I think everybody showing up today knows who they're going to vote for.
So you don't think there's going to be this, because their polls close in an hour. You don't think in this next hour there's going to be enough people saying, well, I was considering, voting for Warren, but I'm going to have to vote for Bernie now to try to stave that. You don't think it's going to be enough to make a huge difference anyway?
I don't think so, because I think that Bernie, and again, this is looking at models, which I've been doing literally all week.
Right.
Enjoying the crap out of it too, which is really weird because I hate stats. But I think that looking at models, it looks like Bernie should win the and did I put it in the notes how weird California does this?
Yes, you did. And I think we talked about that, no? Yeah, no.
Okay. Actually, no, I didn't put it in here.
Yeah, you did. I saw it.
I thought I put it in there, but it's not in the California section.
I wonder if it got deleted because
it may have. But I definitely did put it in there.
You did put it in there.
Luckily, I texted it to somebody else.
Yeah, no, the California. I was wondering about that because I'm like, when are we going to talk about California? Do you need time to pull that up or?
So I found it.
Okay.
So 140. They have a crap ton of delegates. 415 or so. Massive amount of delegates. Right, the largest delegate poll in the nation. So of the 415 delegates, 144 will be based on the popular vote of the state.
Okay.
144.
So 144 are just going to go straight to whoever wins the popular vote.
Whoever gets the popular vote, which is going to be Bernie.
Okay.
That's going to be Bernie. The other 271 will be divvied up based on each individual congressional district, probably based on population of district.
So almost like an electoral college for each district in the state.
Right.
Which I would assume probably helps Biden.
I would think so. In areas like LA, San Francisco, the heavier concentrated, I think that actually helps Bernie. But in the more rural areas, he's going to be pulling a lot from there.
Right.
So since it's a proportional thing, since it's a proportional state, as all of the states are, since it's a proportional state and you're looking at it from the amount of votes that they get, not strictly just on popular. Oh, wait, so the 144 doesn't all go to who wins the popular vote. That's going to still be proportional as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so California, like, there is a chance, minimal chance, definitely not calling this.
Yeah.
Minimal chance that Biden can gain a lot more delegates in California than anybody thought was actually possible.
Yeah.
And keep that gap as narrow as as close as they possibly can.
Right.
Which would be huge for the Biden campaign.
So
you know what? Actually, going back to your question, maybe people are going, oh, well, I was going to vote for Warren, but now I'm going to vote for Bernie just because I can't have Biden.
But it's not even going to make that big of a difference because it's so proportional that unless 100% of the voters, even the ones voting for Biden, said in this next hour, I'm voting for Bernie, it's not going to be enough of a swing to make a huge difference.
No, because over 50% of the voting bloc has already voted.
Just incredible. This is incredible.
Oh, good.
Stuff.
My buddy in Nashville who lives, I know he lives really near where the tornado is. The tornado was. He is good and all is well with him.
Good.
That message. So I'm very glad to hear that, Brad. Love you. And
I also love you, Brad.
I'm glad to hear that you are doing okay and that everybody there is fine.
Bass over on YouTube asked if we saw when Trump ducked down at his podium to make fun of Bloomberg. I did. I didn't watch I just saw a screenshot of it, but I didn't see the whole whole thing.
I didn't watch the entire thing. I just saw that he did that.
Serotonin says, I know Matt remembers I was a Bernie supporter in 2016, and so he thinks I'm just a sore loser. We don't think that.
I don't think you're a sore loser. But you are already calling. Where is it? I don't have to go too much further. You are already saying,
She said Biden didn't even campaign in any of these states. This is a
Right.
joke.
do you believe these vote counts? Like you,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I do.
I have no reason not to believe these vote counts.
I don't believe what they tried to do in Iowa. That was garbage. Like, that was a total screw Bernie. Whether it's Buttigieg or whoever, we're going to screw Bernie. That was calculated perfectly to try to blunt the reality, which ended up being that Bernie won Iowa, and to stretch it out as much as possible to make it look like he didn't win. Most people don't realize he actually ended up winning Iowa. Like, that's how convoluted they did it. That was intentional. They wanted
He won the popular vote, but he didn't win the delegate count.
Right. But he got the most votes there. They wanted it to look like, there was Joementum, or at least that, Bernie was a paper dragon, that he wasn't going to do as well as people thought. That was intentional. Right. Like, that was not an app malfunction. That was intentional. It was close enough that they figured out that they could screw him that way. So, I mean, they have their legitimate complaints about how this has gone. The rest of these votes, I think this is what we thought would happen. Boomers and Obama supporters are showing up and voting for Biden. Black voters are showing up en masse and voting for Biden. It is what it is. Let's see here. Matt Peterson, Vols, member of Team Supreme, said R.I.P. Bernie. Just got out of work. Watching these results come through is just gross. This is, Matt, this is what Matt Wright and I have been, Matt here to my left, have been predicting, or to my right, to your left, have been predicting from the beginning, is that people who don't follow day-to-day politics are going to show up and go, oh, Joe Biden, he was Obama's vice president. What a great time that was. Boop.
Yep.
And that's what's happening.
That is 100%
He didn't even have to campaign there. He did, I think, in the last couple weeks, he's done 2 rallies in Texas. That's it. Now, it looks like he's not going to win Texas, but he didn't campaign in any of these states. And Bernie's been all over the place, and Bernie has serious excitement momentum. That's completely different than people who just show.
Bernie skipped a lot of the South.
Well, he also knew there wasn't a shot. Like, it wasn't. Right. But you know what? Honestly, he probably screwed himself there, because he could have. It is not hard for a progressive Democrat to convince a black voter that they're the best choice for them. It's a lot harder when you don't go there and talk to them. And everywhere else he campaigned was overwhelmingly white. And so Biden, that allowed Joe Biden, who, I mean, Matt has defended his support of segregation in the past, but, Joe Biden, who has a lot of terrible optics, who, brags to audiences about
his support of anti-busing policies.
Matt, the South will rise again, right? But I mean, Joe Biden, who goes in front of audiences of almost entirely black people and brags about the time that he threatened to hang a black man for jumping into a swimming pool without a shower cap on and getting his black hair in the clean pool. Like, I mean, this is someone who's eminently easy to beat if you go there and talk to them, which is another thing I tell libertarians. But God forbid we do that either, because they're not in our little room we booked. And so, at any rate,
I feel like some of this is a little personal for you.
It's just like, maybe let's try to do what political parties do, which is contest and win elections. I don't know. Anyway, that's my own little personal axe to grind. Austin is definitely going to be fun if it doesn't get canceled. Right. And again, I'm not going there to hurt anyone's feeling. Like, we need to start trying to win elections. And it turns out you got to talk to voters who might not even agree with your ideas at first. And anyway,
or people who have never heard of your party.
People who have never heard of you in the building that you're. It is much more important that we talk to the dozens of other fellow libertarians who already completely agree 100% to the point that they're actually signing up to be delegates to go to Austin and vote for who they want to be the nominee. They are so diehard, dyed-in-the-wool libertarians. That is clearly who we need to spend all of our time with. not the people in the lobby who outnumber us 20-1 and have never heard of us. Not to mention the people outside the building who outnumber us thousands to 1 and also have never heard of us. Nope, we definitely need to just keep talking to each other.
Just saw a great headline. It says Bloomberg spends 500 million, wins American Samoa.
It worked in American Samoa.
Yeah. Apparently with 40% in Texas, Bernie holding on to his 6% lead.
In Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like he's going to win Texas. But again, like you said, it's not as... Oh, we were talking about California, but I was reading this thing. They're also very proportional. So he'll get the lion's share of the delegates, but Biden will pick up some delegates there as he's picking up in places that no one expected him to win. Now, speaking of places that Bernie has been overwhelmingly expected to win, with 61% counted in Utah, Bernie is ahead there, 33% to 19% with Mayor Bloomberg. In third place is Liz Warren with 16%. So Biden, Joementum not making it into Mormon country.
No.
Utah is a very independent voting group because they are Mormon, and Mormons are uniquely independent in how they approach things. They often intentionally vote differently than everyone else would expect them to. So that's not surprising. And I believe Bernie actually has a lot of progressive Mormon support and has for a while. So I want to say he beat Hillary in 2016 in Utah as well. So the only state left to start reporting is California, which will happen in, 38 minutes. Jesus God.
Right. Well, I put in the notes that I don't think that we're going to get to. Well, there's no reason to go to California because we don't know when all of their ballots are going to be.
It's going to take days. So, we'll talk about California on next Tuesday because that's when we'll actually know what happened there.
Right. In Massachusetts, 46% in. Biden holding on 34%. Bernie in second with 27, and Warren with 20.
And in Maine, with 37% reporting, Bernie is ahead by 34. What I'm looking at only says it only gives round numbers. It doesn't give the percent, but it's saying 34 to 34, but with Biden ahead or Bernie ahead.
So I'm looking at Politico right now.
Okay.
And on Politico, they have 49% in.
Mm-hmm.
Biden at 34.1, Bernie at 33.6, and Warren with 16.
So that's actually that's a more recent one than what I'm looking at, 37%. And you said 49%. So with nearly 50% in, Joe Biden ahead by what, 0.6%, something like that?
0.5%.
In Maine.
In Maine.
And ahead in Massachusetts. Joe Biden, if you ask me, and I'm sure it doesn't matter nearly as much from a delegate standpoint.
Mm-mm.
From an optics standpoint,
it's huge. Joe
Biden winning a fairly decent lead in Massachusetts and Minnesota is a gigantic, I'm the presumptive front runner. I'm the front runner now. Like that. Yeah. That is a gigantic, I am the front runner. No one can say I'm not. By the way, Joe Biden took him 32 years to win one primary. 3 days later, he's the nominee now.
Right.
That is an impressive. If you tried to chart that, that would just be like that. There would just be like, there would be like this long line of nothing, and then a little bump at the right straight up.
Right.
This is what Joe Biden has been saying would happen for 32 years. No one believed him except me and Matt, and him, and I guess I don't think his wife believed him.
No.
But yeah,
especially
here we are.
After bit her finger.
I would say she probably voted for. When does Delaware vote?
In a couple weeks.
Okay. She'll probably vote for Bernie. Because he literally like chewed on her finger on national television.
National television.
International. Yeah,
International television.
the whole world saw that.
Do you want to do Supreme Court or more Chris Reynolds?
Let's finish off Chris, and then we'll do Supreme Court, just so I can keep things linear.
Sure.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with one of your favorite segments of the week, where Spike shed some light on some of the more nuanced and complicated subjects circulating throughout the world, which of course this week has to do with the New York Knicks. Obviously, after the main thing that you think of after you think of losing associated with the New York Knicks is Spike Lee, and Spike Lee goes to a game last night and is asked basically to leave. Probably one of the most passionate fans for such a losing franchise that I've ever seen in my lifetime. So I would love to hear what Spike thinks about how Spike Lee was treated. Thanks.
Why was he, I'm googling this? Why was he asked to leave?
I honestly don't know. He tried to go in through an employee entrance, and he's not
Right.
an employee. And he's not an employee, so they asked him to leave, and now he is saying that he is never going back to Madison Square. He's not going back to Madison Square Garden.
Oh, wow, and he's been there forever.
Yeah, I don't think he's missed a game since.
Yeah, he's like been a fixture of. I don't even know.
Do the Right Thing came out in July of 1989, and I don't think he's missed a game since.
I mean, when you said that this was about the Knicks, I thought, I can't tell you anyone who has played for the Knicks since Patrick Ewing and that Jeremy Lin guy, who I think is now with the Raptors. This is the level of stuff I know about about professional sports in general, if it's not prize fighting. So when you said Spike Lee, I'm like, well, I at least know who that is. But I will say that's pretty devastating. If you're like, I mean, that he's like a fixture of those games. So I don't know what else to say. That's crazy. This might come as a shock, but I haven't really heard much about this. To be able to tell you one way or another what I think. So that's what I have to say about that. Matt, do you have anything to say besides what you've already said?
No, I've never liked Spike Lee.
What this brought up, and I'm not sure why, was another thing that happened a few days ago was so Chuck D of Public Enemy endorsed Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders was going to there was a Public Enemy concert that was also then going to have Bernie give a speech, and so Bernie put out a poster which shows him like doing this or putting up his fist, and it says Public Enemy and Bernie Sanders or whatever. And Flavor Flav sent a tweet or a cease and desist telling Bernie to stop using Public Enemy's name, and that he gave no permission for that, and that he won't be performing at it now. And it turns out Chuck D actually owns all the rights to Public Enemy, and so Flavor Flav had no authority to say any of that. And so Chuck D, that's probably why it came up, because like you talk about fixtures, Spike Lee being at the Knicks game at Madison Square Garden, and Flavor Flav being in Public Enemy. Two things that ended this week.
Yeah.
At least they waited till after. What's that?
He was the hype man, right?
Yeah, he was the hype man, and he's arguably way more famous than Chuck D. Now, Chuck D is he's the one that wrote most of the lyrics, and he's the real, like, he came up with the brand Public Enemy and everything else. Flavor Flav was more, I mean, he was a rapper and a hype man. He wasn't just a hype man, but he definitely was not, like, I mean, Chuck D is the mind behind it. But I mean, thankfully they all waited until after Black History Month to do this stuff, because you got Spike Lee no longer going to Madison Square Garden. This was a rough Black History Month. This was a really, really, it reached a point where people stopped talking about it. Because it was just a rough Black History Month. So that's what I think about that. Let's go through the next one.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with yet another AOC Millennial Minute. So we recently had the South Carolina primary, and a lot of people, online at least, seemed pretty confused how all of these media outlets were calling victory for Joe Biden with pretty much 0% reporting. We had issues, obviously, in the 2016 election. Everyone thought that Hillary had it in the bag, and obviously that was a mistake as well. And so I would love to hear your all's take or perspective on, how they come up with these numbers, and can we believe them this time? Thanks.
Matt, I'll let you start because I actually live in South Carolina.
So, as far as how they're predicting the elections on election day, they're doing it by exit poll. They're asking people as they're leaving who they voted for.
Yep.
And assuming that everybody is telling them the truth, which I've tried to do exit polling before. Very difficult to do because so many people do not want to tell you.
Right. And then from that, you can't just do a straight up, this is what I was told by people. You then have to break those people into the various demographics of who is projected to vote. So it's not just, because if only white, for example, if for some reason only white people answered, you can't just go with what they said because you have to factor in black voters and Hispanic voters. So it's exit polling is a very difficult science. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. But when it comes to early polling, much like what we're looking at today, people have separate models for everything. That's why at the beginning we had 5 different ways that this could go. And it's still too early to say which one of those 5 it's going to be. It's still too early to say which one of those 5 it's going to be. Sorry, I just read an interesting update. But because of that, because there are so many different models and so many different ways that everything can play out, right. You have the narratives that people choose and they go with it. They have the narratives and they go with it, and that's what the media reports, and that's what people push. I know numerous people who are Bernie fans. And if you were to ask any of them this morning, it would have been option 3, Bernie wins huge and brings in, and they would have gone more than 600 delegates, which I wasn't willing to say that. I was saying about 600.
Right.
I don't think he would have hit 600. I think he would have been about 570-ish. And then Biden around 450. They would have said the opposite and saying that Biden comes in with over 600 delegates or Bernie comes in with over 600 delegates, and Biden would end up with about 4. Now, because of that, you have to look at all the models and try to figure out where all the trends are going. The way that, for instance, the way that we saw it going, it looked like it was going to be a lot closer than what it appears to be happening.
Yep.
Although with Texas and California still out there, Utah was just called for Bernie, which isn't a surprise.
Yeah.
But that
we did not predict Bernie running away with it.
Right. We did not. Yeah, we definitely didn't do that.
Right.
But back in 2016, so many models showed that Hillary Clinton was going to run away with it. that was the narrative being pushed.
Mm-hmm.
That was also the narrative that made so many conservatives go out and vote, because they had to beat her, and that kept a lot of Democrats, I won't even say liberals, but that kept a lot of Democrats from going out to vote because they didn't think they had to.
Yep.
So that's kind of where you're at with early polling and models, and that what is being reported to you by the media, which is why you should just watch this show.
We said what was going to happen a year ago.
Yeah, we did.
Over a year ago.
Yeah, we did.
And lo and behold.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Yeah, it was last February we started talking about this.
Before I was on the show, Muddy Waters was saying what was going to happen with the impeachment. He was going to get impeached for something, and then he was going to get acquitted for it.
Yep.
You guys are just causing undue harm to yourselves by not just watching this show, taking what we say as the absolute truth, and then sharing it with your loved ones so that they also watch it and decide what the truth is based on what we say. So we could all just save a lot of time. Matt said pretty much...
We save no time.
Well, I mean, save time on worrying about it. Just watch us and we'll tell you what's going to happen. Just watch us. It's only like 3 hours. But so Matt said everything I would say and more when it comes to exit polling and early vote counts and everything. That's even more detailed than I would have said. I want to talk specifically about South Carolina. I could have told you what was going to happen in South Carolina. I didn't think he was going to get 48%, but I knew he was going to get over 35 or 36%. I knew he was going to walk away with it. And the reason for that is that the South Carolina Democratic primary electorate is something like 60% black. It is the blackest, I believe, most overwhelmingly black electorate of any state, or party voting electorate of any state. The Democratic Party in South Carolina is essentially a black party now. There are certainly white people in it, but all of the people in major positions of power are black. It's a black party. By the way, and that's the future of the Democratic Party in the Southeast in particular, is just being black-dominated parties, because white voters are increasingly becoming white identity voters, meaning that they are becoming a voting bloc that votes Republican, especially in the South, and black people vote Democrat. Like well over 90% of black people vote Democrat. And so that's the reality, is that if you want to win the Democratic nomination, but especially in the South, you have to appeal to black voters. Joe Biden is Barack Obama's vice president. The end. He's the vice president to the first and only black president in history. That's it. Oh, and no one came and really contested here because they figured Texas and, Florida and California and Minnesota and Wisconsin were better uses of their time, which may or may not be true, but they completely left it open for Biden to just walk away with it. And guess what, guys? If Bernie had maybe spent a few times in South Carolina to help blunt that Joementum in South Carolina, we might not be witnessing what we're witnessing right now. We may be witnessing Bernie Sanders on his way to getting a majority of delegates. Because let's be clear, we are witnessing the very real possibility of Joe Biden marching to a majority of delegates before he gets to the convention. That could have all been blunted by spending a few times in South Carolina and talking about Joe Biden's problematic issues with black people. But they didn't. They just ceded the entire state to him. In a party that is increasingly reliant on black voters for relevance. Stupid. I'm not saying camp out here. Come here 4 or 5 times and bring up some of the stuff Joe Biden said and make that be the conversation. But that didn't happen.
So the New York Times is still leaning Biden in Texas, which is huge.
Really?
Still leading. So on Politico, I've got it pulled up, and it looks as though in all of the major, I had that backwards, in all of the major cities outside of outside of Houston.
Mhm.
So in El Paso, Corpus Christi, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, all of those are Bernie, where he's winning pretty massively.
Mm-hmm.
Almost everywhere else in this state appears to be going Biden. So it's just, does the people outside of those cities, including Houston, do they have enough to overtake Bernie?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
by the way, Joe Biden was only given a 1 in 5 chance, actually a 19% chance of winning Minnesota. So that was a total upset there. And that even factored in Klobuchar dropping out and endorsing him.
yeah.
So that is the biggest upset of the night. I have to think that him winning Massachusetts, if that happens, will be at least an equally big upset. Okay. Oh, here's an update on the forecast. The odds now. Well, wait. Is this?
Are you talking about 538?
Yeah, 538 doing their prediction. So in less than, we're going to have to say goodnight to the simulator here.
Oh, the simulations thing?
Yeah, the simulation. By the way, their simulator has completely crapped out on them because he won Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's not making predictions anymore.
Which is funny. Yeah. So what's funny is I was playing around with their simulator yesterday, because anybody could have gone in and done it.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I played with the prediction thing. Yeah.
Right. And it would not let you choose Biden for Minnesota.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do it.
Yep. So anyway, their prospect is that now no one getting the majority goes up to 65.1%, and Joe Biden getting a majority at 30.1%. So now that's 95.2% that either no one gets the majority or Joe Biden gets the majority. Both of those scenarios are Bernie does not get the nomination.
Both of the
Yeah.
No matter.
So it's like a 95.2% chance that Bernie is not going to get the nomination.
And as much as I'm afraid to say this, but also I feel very confident in it. Even before tonight, I knew there was a 0% chance of Bernie ending up with this nomination.
Yeah.
0%.
If he walked in with anything less than a majority, which was never going to happen, they were going to find a way to screw him out of it. Now they don't even have to screw him. They can just say, so the average delegates here, it's saying that they're projecting Joe Biden to get an average of 1,775 delegates, and for Bernie Sanders to get a average of 1,358 delegates. They are predicting that Joe Biden, even if he doesn't get a majority, is going to come in with over 400 more delegates than Bernie Sanders. There is no argument that can be made for why, in light of that, not to left-wing activists, but to the people who run the party, the establishment that runs the party, there is no argument you are going to be able to make that they should give it to Bernie if Biden is that close to a majority and has that many more delegates than Bernie. There's no argument that you're going to be able to make that's going to sway them. They're going to simply hand it to the guy who is way ahead in the lead. That's simply what's going to happen. But very, very interesting. 95 point. Bernie Sanders has at this point a 4.8% chance of getting the majority of delegates. And that is with factoring in him winning California. Like they're already saying with him winning California, 4.8%. But it does not say with him winning Texas. So it might go up a little bit if he wins Texas, but it's not going to go up enough for it to matter.
Texas is going to be a huge Texas is going to be a huge difference maker.
But for them to still be saying they're leaning Biden, clearly for no one to be pressing the panic button on that and saying Bernie's going to get it, they know something that we're kind of predicting, which is that the West Coast votes are going to be, a lot, or West side vote with the Western half votes are going to be more, the rural votes are going to be more pro Biden. But I at this point I'm thinking Bernie's going to win that, but it's also looking like Biden's going to win Massachusetts. I find that so funny.
So I guess in Houston, there are extremely long lines in Black and Latino neighborhoods due to the fact that Texas closed hundreds of polling places across the state since 2012, including many in Harris County, where Houston is. If they give those people time to vote, which I think if you're in line, they have to give you time to vote. I'm not 100% sure. It's whatever rules the Democratic Party wants. So if they give them time to vote, that could be a huge swing. And a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, but that's going to be a huge swing for Biden.
Yeah, because Black and Hispanic voters, I think it's pretty even with Hispanic voters between Biden and Bernie. Right.
But Black voters
are going to overwhelmingly vote for Biden. Black Southern voters are going to overwhelmingly vote for Joe Biden. Whatever edge Bernie might have with Hispanic voters, which I think he does have a slight edge with them, completely erased by the overwhelming share of Black voters that Joe Biden's going to get. Serotonin mentioned that Barack Obama hasn't even endorsed Joe Biden. He's not going to. He's a sitting president, and this is a very competitive race, and he doesn't want to be seen as...
That is not that surprising.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Yeah. That's like how George W. Bush, even though he was dead set against Trump, never made an endorsement prior to the nomination. Like, that's just not how it works. Yeah. Sitting presidents don't do that. So that's why that happened. And she also said that and Bernie's civil rights activism would have been a winning combo. Not if you don't tell them about it. Very similar to another party I've heard of that has a really great record on civil rights, but no one effing knows about it because we don't tell anyone. We just talk to each other about it and get really upset that no one else knows, as we then walk out in the lobby and don't make eye contact with anyone.
So this is actually a really good point. Will the fact that Biden's surging on Super Tuesday, that's going to be the narrative.
Yep.
That is going to be the narrative going into next week.
Yep.
And next week we have, I'll close out of that and go to that. What is that, March 10th? March 10. States. This is why we need an intern, guys. That would be great.
So while he's go ahead.
So March 10th, it looks like there's only two, and it looks like it's Michigan and Mississippi.
He's going to win both of those.
He's going to win both of them.
Biden's going to win both of those. He was always going to win Mississippi. I think he's going to win Michigan. I don't even know what the polling says there.
No, I have no clue.
No idea.
No idea.
I know
I could easily look that up right now.
Don't even need to. Don't care. It's completely irrelevant. Prior to this election, up until today, the national polling average had Bernie Sanders at 28.9%, Joe Biden at 18.1%. How much did that matter after the events that have happened over the last 4 days? Not a damn bit. So I don't even care what the polling says. I don't care what the trends say. That's Joe Biden's to lose. Because he just won Minnesota, and no one would have predicted that.
Nobody would have predicted that.
And Minnesota is way more progressive than Michigan, and Michigan is way blacker than Minnesota. Minnesota doesn't have a Detroit. It has Minneapolis. I mean, there are black people in Minnesota, but there's a much larger black population in Michigan, and there's a much larger non-progressive population in Michigan. He's going to win Michigan. He was always going to win Mississippi. So there's some more Joementum for you. The very next Tuesday is going to be Joe clearing the deck. Yeah. How many weeks of that before people just who are even the least bit on the fence go, you know what, we gotta get behind, because here's what that conversation becomes. At this point, it's clear who the front runner is, and we have to get together and defeat Donald Trump, and the only way we can do that is by getting behind the front runner, Joe Biden, the vice president of Barack Obama. And by the way, if you want to see Barack make an endorsement before Biden gets the majority of delegates, let him start sweeping entire decks where there's serious pressure on Obama to just step in and deliver the coup de grace that everyone already saw coming. And if and when that happens, the election's over. The primary's over. There's nothing left. Because then a lot of Warren voters are going to become Biden voters. Which, by the way, I think that's why Biden's winning Massachusetts. And probably why he's winning Minnesota, too. A lot of Warren voters who are progressives who hate Bernie Sanders. Because, frankly, if you're voting for Warren, it's because you're a progressive and because you hate Bernie Sanders for whatever reason. In that scenario, if you're looking at the numbers and you realize Warren's not going to get it, you start voting for Biden just to screw Bernie. This was a perfect storm for Joe that he's been predicting for 32 years.
Right.
We've been predicting for over a year. He's been predicting since before most of us were born.
So there's more states voting next week. It's Michigan, Washington, Missouri, Mississippi, Idaho, North Dakota, and the Democrats abroad.
Bernie will probably win Democrats abroad.
Sanders won that pretty handily.
Yeah, he'll win that.
In Iowa. That's tough to say. But right now, Michigan,
Biden.
50 Sanders, 48 Biden.
If it was even that close before, Biden's going to destroy him now.
Yeah, with Biden surging, leading the narrative of all media. He's going to take Michigan.
Yep.
Washington State. Yeah, I know it's frozen. And this entire site is going really slow.
It's because everyone's on it.
Because everybody's on it. Washington is... Sanders is forecasted to win actually pretty handily because Seattle's going to carry him.
Yeah, I was going to say he's going to win the West Coast states. He'll probably win Oregon too, I'd assume.
Right.
Because he's going to win. He's going to win Portland. He's going to win Seattle. Like the West Coast is his to lose.
Right. The West Coast is that's Biden's. Oh man. Please do not reload to the top of this page.
What are you on? Politico?
538.
But see, I'm just on the live results as they come up.
I am on the 2020 Democratic primary. Oh, you went all the way.
AP has called Massachusetts for Biden.
Wow. Yeah, Biden's predicted to win Missouri. Biden's predicted to win Mississippi.
Yeah.
Idaho. That's going to be up in the air.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what to tell you there. But
that's tough. That's tough. But I'm going to lean toward Democrats abroad. This is the one I want. I want Idaho. Democrats abroad is leaning Sanders, which I kind of figured. That because
there's a possibility that Bernie Sanders will get 0 delegates in Alabama, which no one predicted. He is dangerously close to falling below the 15% threshold. What do you think that's going to look like when the other southern states start voting after this night? Bernie's going to get shut out. Joe Biden had a 1 in 5 shot in all prediction models of winning in Massachusetts. AP just called it there for him. Similar 1 in 5 shot in Minnesota.
Yeah, right now Biden has a 3 in 5 chance in Idaho. If it looks like the country is coming behind
He's
Biden,
going to win Idaho. He's going to win Idaho. He's going to win Idaho. Bernie Sanders is going to clean up in the western states, but not as much as it looked like before.
Right.
Biden will still get enough to get some, I would think, some delegates there. Biden's going to sweep the rest of the country. Yeah.
I'm not willing to go that far, but yeah, it's going to be...
He's going to sweep most of the rest of the country. I mean, Is Bernie going to win New York? Probably.
Yeah.
New York City.
New York City.
New York City. Yeah, he's gonna win. He's gonna win. Unless, put it this way, if Biden wins New York City, then we need to just even stop talking about this and just wait till after the convention, because then it's over.
Right.
But yeah, he's definitely gonna win New York State, because he's gonna win New York City. But the rest of them, any of the purple and reddish states or the light blue states. It's going to be Biden. Biden's going to get the majority of delegates, I think.
I don't know.
I'm calling that.
Man,
I think he's going to do it.
All
right. It is, and this is not I'm not going to die on this hill. I might be wrong. I think at this point he's definitely going to come in with the most delegates, which means he's almost assuredly going to get the nomination. I think he's going to get the majority of delegates. I think we're about to see a major realignment here of people starting to because most voters just want the uncertainty to be over. Like, most voters are not ideologically married to any of these people, clearly. That's why they're voting for Biden in the first place. Most of these voters are not going to want to see how some convoluted brokered convention plays out where Liz Warren might get it or Mike Bloomberg. Most voters are going to say, you know what? Joe Biden is walking away with it. It's time for us to close ranks around him so that we can defeat Donald Trump in November. And that's going to carry the day. And if the Libertarian Party nominates me and Vermin, we are going to score like freaking 20% of the vote. I'm
just going to take Spike's campaign update off because I'm afraid of what you'll say.
I've already said what I have to say, honestly. Like, there are some incredibly principled people running for the Libertarian Party nomination. Vermin, Jacob Hornberger, Dan Berman, and others. And then there's a couple others that are also running. I even like Ken Armstrong. I don't agree with him, but I think he's incredibly principled and a nice man. And I think he has charisma, too.
No.
I actually like him a lot. I love him. He's a really cool guy. I hate that I don't agree with him politically. And I shouldn't say that. I probably agree with him on 80% of stuff, but, he's a constitutionalist. But anyway, all that to say, we have some incredibly good people running that 98% of the country isn't going to care about because the media is not going to put them in front of people, and they're just going to get shut out. And that's a structural thing. And the people that you need to get are disaffected voters, which in this case is going to be something like 15 million Bernie bros who are going to be so pissed off that Vermin Supreme, sure, where do I sign up to vote for him? And if even 1 in 20 of them said, what's this all about, this libertarianism thing, and actually got into it and found out, that would be like a quadrupling of our membership. Anyway, we'll see. We will see what happens. And whoever we go with, guys, and this I'm definitely going to be saying, so you don't have to be scared of me saying it here because I'm going to say it. Whoever we go with, let's start talking to other people. Like, I get that we are fiscally conservative and socially agoraphobic, but we have to start talking to other people. We have to talk to normies. I know you don't and not talk to them like tell them they're bootlickers. Like, talk to them like we actually care about them. And we have this incredibly empathetic political message based on self-ownership and non-aggression and voluntary societies. And then we hate everyone so much we don't talk to them about it. And when we do, we talk about it in such an angry way that it turns everyone off. And I'm speaking in general. There's some incredible libertarians out there that are doing amazing work. But we have to start talking to people outside of our knitting circles that we've created for ourselves. Like, we can continue to spend all of our time planning monthly meetings where we go to, we get a table at a restaurant or a bar or whatever and sit there and plan our next meeting and bitch about the government and, occasionally glance at the waitress, like, when she comes by to take the order. Like, we have to start. There are structural changes in the party that will help incentivize this, but we don't even need that. We need to talk to people. Anyway, there's my campaign update. We have to talk to people.
We have just passed hour 3, which means for anybody who knows, we have 1 hour left before we get cut off.
Right. Well, okay, so then let's do a couple things. Let's finish the last one with Chris. Let's finish Chris
2 more
off.
with Chris, isn't it?
I believe no, because we did the bonus AOC minute. We just have the medical minute. So let's do that, and then we'll talk about this abortion thing, and then we will, I guess, keep talking about updates until right before we get cut off, and then we will.
Yeah, real quick. Maine, with 58% reporting, 33.9 to 33.9, with Warren getting 16.1.
If someone had told you today that Maine was going to be...
Politico called California.
What's that?
Politico called California.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Because they're not even worried about the
0% reporting.
Yeah, I'm sure that because they've already been looking at exit polls for hours. They're just not allowed to show them until after the polls close. They know who won this thing. I'm sure he's going to get he might get 60%, or more. No one doubted Bernie.
It's tough. It's tough. I think he wins the popular vote, but the delegate count, I have no idea.
If Bernie Sanders wins the delegate count, or wins the popular vote, and loses commandingly in the delegate count, you are going to see such a freaking mess, not just from Bernie bros, but from progressives in general, who are going to say, we complain about the Electoral College, and now look, in our own system.
These are the rules that the Democratic Party can change these rules whenever they want. And they aren't doing it.
They're not doing it.
They aren't doing it in their own system.
Because they don't want to lose boomers.
Yep.
That's all it is. Because boomers vote in a block. And that block is increasingly becoming Republican. And the Democratic Party knows. I mean, boomers are old. They're not going to be here forever. But they're going to be here for 20, 30 years. And they're going to vote as a block. And as they get older, they're going to vote even more as a block. They're going to become something resembling a white identity politics block of 70, 80% Republican. If someone, either the Democrats or, I don't know, maybe another party that is able to talk to people, I don't know, if there even is such a thing, they're going to end up being a massive Republican voting bloc that does not care that Republicans aren't conservative, that does not care that Republicans are just a different flavor of Republicrat, big government, endless war, endless taxation, endless debt spend. They want their Social Security. They want their VA benefits. They want their Medicare. They want to have their problems blamed on brown people. And they want to, be told, stand for the flag and bow for the cross. Kneel for the cross. Bow, kneel, whatever. Get down for the cross.
So the polls in California, the split between early and late deciding voters is evident.
Yeah.
Sanders crushed Biden 41% to 18% among early deciders.
Okay.
Biden won late deciders 40% to 29%.
So it's the opposite of what I said.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's going to win Oregon.
I'm not willing to say that because Portland is such a massive city. And I don't know how Oregon does it.
Matt, late deciding voters split for Biden. What did you say? 2-1? 40% to 20 something?
29.
Okay, so 40-30. They broke for Biden in California. You know what? I don't want to say he'll win Oregon. I want to say he'll do a lot better in Oregon and Washington than is being predicted. He's going to win Idaho.
Right.
He's going to win
which is
everywhere
going to
else.
give him more delegates, which is going to make it harder for Bernie to get to the 1991.
Oh, Bernie's not getting 1990.
Bernie's not getting 1991.
I don't know if Bernie's getting 1,300.
That,
Yeah, I don't know if Bernie's getting 1,300 anymore. I think you can wonder if he's going to get 1,000. I think that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. I mean, we can already say he's going to be the nominee because Joe Biden's not going to walk in with 1,800 and something delegates, and the establishment says let's give it to Michael Bloomberg or Hillary Clinton or something like that. That would take them giving it to someone who isn't either Bernie or Biden is going to take them not coming in with very similar counts where it has to be split up and given to some consensus candidate that doesn't exist. If Biden comes in with a commanding lead just shy of the majority, Biden's going to get it in the second round because of course he is, because he's who they wanted anyway, or he's one of the people they were okay with anyway, and he's already right there. So that's going to happen. Biden's going to get the majority. I mean, look at these numbers, Matt. He completely swept Super Tuesday, with the exception of California and Vermont and American Samoa and and Colorado and Utah. But I mean, it's not sounding as powerful anymore. But
no, it really doesn't. But
he's way overperforming. He won in Maine. He won in Massachusetts. It looks like he's going to win in Maine. He won in Minnesota.
In Maine, he's up by 0.4 with 2/3 in.
And Maine doesn't have, well, yeah, I guess there's Portland, Maine. But, Maine doesn't have this, like, massive population center that takes forever to count their votes or whatever. Like, it's a fairly mostly rural with some, what we'd consider suburbs. It's their big cities, but they're not really, like, big cities. I see him winning Maine, and it looks like he's going to frickin' win Massachusetts.
Yeah, the AP just called California.
Yeah, yeah. So we don't even have to worry about
Maine.
So let's finish the Chris stuff, and then we can talk about abortion, and then we'll revisit the other stuff.
Right.
Personal injury attorney Chris Reynolds here with your medical minute. So it's almost widely understood at this point that the numbers for the coronavirus in terms of the people who have contracted it are just wildly inaccurate. Earlier today, we had in the United States 6 deaths with only 60 reported people, which is a 10% death rate, which is obviously not true. And so there's clearly a lot more people out there that have it that we don't know. And I guess really my question is, should we be concerned that obviously our testing system is really bad, not only for this virus, but for things in the future? Thanks.
Do you want to answer this first, or?
No.
Okay. Short answer, yes. Longer answer, yes. But with the coronavirus, they call it the novel coronavirus. It wasn't like anything else, and so they actually had to create tests for this, which is why whatever numbers they're telling you in China are a total joke, especially since so many people get it and are either asymptomatic or have such light symptoms that they don't even feel bad and they go about their day spreading it to others, because you can spread it without symptoms. The good news to that is that means that the fatality rate is almost assuredly much lower than we're being told. 2.3% is a pretty nasty fatality rate for a disease as virulent as this. To put that in perspective, that would mean 6 to 7 million Americans dying inside of a year. That's a lot of freaking Americans to die of something that was not, I mean, you know, a lot of Americans die every year. An additional 6 million that weren't expected to die is the pretty, I mean, 9/11, 3,000 people died. Multiply that by, God, why does my math suck? 2,000. And that's, 2,000 9/11s. Yeah. So it's going to be much lower than that. The fatality rate is going to be lower. And I think it's at least one order of magnitude higher, the number of people that actually have it compared to who they know have it. Just because A, so many people have it that are asymptomatic, and B, even people that are symptomatic aren't getting tested for it. They're just being treated as though they have the flu or anything else. It could be even higher. It could be it could be 100 times more people. We could already be experiencing a pandemic and not even realize it. I could have gotten it in New Hampshire and not even realized it. Like it could be way more prolific than we think, which the good news would mean that means it really isn't as, you know, it's just not as deadly. It's similar to the flu death rate wise. So once we get over the panic of the whole thing, and in a year the vaccines come out, and now it's not quite as bad as we thought. But the short answer is yes. There's a problem with the fact that even now that the ability to test is pretty widely available, that I can't go to a doctor and get tested for it around here, even if it took a week to get the results. I can't. I'd have to go to like Charlotte or Raleigh or something, which means I'm having to travel, thereby spreading my virus everywhere I'm going. So I think it's a major challenge, but specifically when it comes to this virus, they call it novel for a reason. It doesn't have it's only similar in that it's a type of coronavirus, but there's no way to test for it. There was no way to test for it prior to identifying it and coming up with a reactivity chain to be able to actually make a test that works. And in fact, many of the early tests had something like a 50% false negative rate, which apparently for the flu, it's not much lower. So there's a lot of problems. But yes, the short answer is they need to get on the ball with this a little better. The other thing is that when you look at the response time to this compared to H1N1 or SARS, even with the Chinese government doing a lot of misinformation early on and pretending it wasn't nearly as bad as it was. I mean, they tried claiming into the end of January that they weren't sure if it was being spread. No, somewhere in like the middle of January, they were saying that they weren't sure if it was being spread person to person, which was utter nonsense. Even with that, because of the speed of them being able to map it out with the genomes and everything else, and being able to actually map it out so that there are already potential vaccines being created to fight it. It'll be another year plus before it's actually out on the market because they have to do safety trials. They don't want to inject everyone with something that ends up, giving them monkey AIDS or something like that. But the reality is, if the response had been this fast with H1N1, there would have been a lot fewer people that died from that. Conversely, if the response to this had been as slow as the response to H1N1, we'd already be experiencing a pandemic, and they'd be saying, oh yeah, by the way, there's this disease going around everywhere, and we don't even know how many people have it, and it's, you probably are, within 10 miles of someone that has it. So it's definitely, things have gotten better, but it's still a big problem. Biggest problem is maybe stop putting a bunch of animals together in wet markets and letting them aerosolize their feces around each other so that whatever zoological diseases they have can just cross mutate until it ends up passing over into humans. That might be a good idea. And wash your hands.
Which, if you go to our Twitter, that's actually on there.
What's that?
On our Twitter, it actually says, we're here to lead you into the dazzling world of libertarianism.
It says that on our Facebook. We've been saying, please wash your hands since 2018.
Right, we called this.
Once again, we called this. Wash your damn hands and stop touching your damn face. And I say that as someone who is having to retrain the way that I fix my glasses because I'm having to touch my face. So I'm now having to do this number. And I don't do it perfectly every time. Stop touching your face, wash your hands, use hand sanitizer after you frickin' shake someone's hands, and wash your hands and wipe down the toilet. Like, pretend. A lot of us are going to have to become a little OCD and fastidious about this. When you're out in the public, pretend that everything has coronavirus on it and act accordingly. Like, that's a good way to do it. And I say that as someone who is immunocompromised and is planning to go to conventions in different states and shake people's hands and hug them.
Gonna be Howie Mandel.
You know what? People are asking me what I'm going to wear because Vermin's wearing a boot. I may wear a freaking N100 respirator with the filters on it and a hazmat suit. And everyone's going to, oh, that gimmick's funny. I'll be like, yeah, no, it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing it.
It's definitely why I'm doing it, because of the humor.
Right.
Definitely why I'm doing it. But no, I personally think this thing is going to end up being somewhat more deadly than the flu, but not 20 times as deadly or whatever, but way more virulent because it lasts so much longer. So even though the flu can aerosolize, I believe, this coronavirus can stay on stuff for as much as 9 days, and people can spread it while being asymptomatic for as much as 2 weeks, and some people are saying it's even longer than that, which means there's no effective way to stop people other than mandating that everyone stay indoors, which would destroy society. I mean, raise your hand if you have enough stuff to live on in your house for 2 weeks without going outside. So do you want to? Oh, go ahead.
Side note: the Republican primary for U.S. Senate in Alabama is over for now. Jeff Sessions and Tommy Tuberville will advance to a March 31st runoff, and then they will face Doug Jones. Elizabeth Warren has already announced that she is remaining in, even though she got shellacked tonight.
She's not going anywhere. She is delusionally of the belief
that she's Native American.
That the winds of her ancestors are going to carry her to the nomination. She is convinced, I think, that she's going to waltz in there with like 87 delegates and, or some ridiculously low number of delegates, and convince, and if no one gets the majority of candidates, that she's going to be able to waltz in there and be like, oh yeah, I'm the consensus candidate because I'm a progressive, but I don't scare people like Bernie. Because, as evidenced by the fact that I came way in third. Like, Pete Buttigieg still has more delegates than her. So I don't think she's, or she knows what she's doing. She knows that she's taking votes from Bernie, and she's hoping Biden remembers that and picks her as his VP, which is also possible.
Yeah, that could be.
In America, how much?
Bloomberg, on the other hand, announced that he is going to take a look at his campaign tomorrow. $500 million for American Samoa. Not a great investment.
If Bloomberg gets out of this,
oh, it's over.
It's over.
It's over.
Bloomberg's not pulling votes from Bernie.
Mm-mm.
I mean, maybe 10% of his, if that. How was Bloomberg polling in New York?
I don't know.
Let me pull that up, because
so currently pledged delegates, Joe Biden has 313, Bernie has 210. And again, a lot of this is going to change. Buttigieg 26, Bloomberg 23, Warren 19. God, she's losing Bloomberg and she's staying in. Klobuchar 7, and Tulsi Gabbard on the board with 1.
Boop, boop, boop. Doesn't that qualify her for the next debate or something?
Oh God, that'd be amazing. Could you imagine?
I think someone said that anyone that had at least one delegate from, I may have misread that.
I honestly don't know. I haven't been paying attention to the rules of the debate in a while.
By the way, the Dow plunged. Well, that was yesterday. 700 more points. So I'm not sure what it went up today, but I bet it wasn't 2,700 points or whatever it should be.
It was like 1,270 or something.
Yeah, it's not. That's called a bull trap, guys. That's people saying, "Oh, those deals are a bargain." Hold on, I'm trying to pull up the.
There was something in here I saw that I wanted to talk about, but it updated on me.
Yep, that's how it happens.
Oh, so with Maine, this is actually not important, but interesting. The reason nobody is able to calculate this is because Biden was so far out of the realm of anything anybody thought was going in Maine that there are no models for it. They don't know what towns are voting for Biden.
Yep.
They're figuring it out as it's coming in.
They said it broke their prediction model. Their prediction model made over either 10,000 or 100,000 predictions. What's that?
That was Minnesota that broke it, right?
Minnesota broke it. Massachusetts, it was just, Minnesota broke it. It had no predictions for that. Like you said, it wouldn't even let you make that choice.
Right.
And Massachusetts, I'm sure, would just made the computer stop turning on. I'm trying to find
I'm going to try to show this to the people who are watching us. Right now, this is how the layout is of Maine on who is winning. So you can see that Bernie is winning in the big suburban areas like Bangor and Portland. I actually just had to look because I don't know Maine that well.
Bangor, Maine. Yeah. I knew that. I knew Portland. I'm thinking, and it's funny because my uncle used to live there in Bangor. Anyway, go ahead.
And Biden is winning everywhere else. Biden is taking the folksy crowd. He is taking that route. Mm-hmm. He is, and it's working for him, even with all of his gaffes, even with all of the issues that he has. Trying to remember that Super Tuesday's on a Tuesday.
Go ahead.
Biden resonates with people the same way that Trump resonated with people. In a way Bernie can't.
Are you saying Biden resonates with people or Bernie resonates with people?
Biden resonates with the rural people.
Which is interesting.
Bernie resonates with I live in the city.
I'm a progressive.
Biden resonates with everybody else.
Everyone else. Bernie's main group is college-educated, white, urban people, like sophisticates.
Under the age of 40.
Under the age of 40. And again, that doesn't mean he doesn't have older supporters or black supporters or what. Generally speaking, that's who he has. Biden has everyone else. Matt, I'd like to share with you an interesting series of polls in the New York Democrat presidential primary. The last poll was done between the 16th and the 20th of February. So this would have been before Bloomberg had his disastrous performance in the debates, which ultimately, by the way, ended his campaign. Bloomberg had these results showed that prior to Bloomberg just cratering in that debate, he actually had a shot at this thing that most of us probably wouldn't have given him. He actually had a shot. He screwed himself there. He could have done it. He could have at least done well enough to split enough votes to walk in and make his case that he's a multi-billionaire, so give me the nomination. He screwed himself there with an absolutely disastrous polling result. So the last poll, how many points do you think it had Sanders up by the 16th to the 20th of February?
17.
4.
Whoa.
Sanders 25, Bloomberg 21, Biden 13, Warren 11, Buttigieg 9, Klobuchar 9, and Gabbard 1. I think Joe Biden's going to win New York. Especially if Bloomberg drops out.
Especially if Bloomberg drops out.
Maybe I'm reading this wrong, folks. In this poll, Sanders was ahead of Biden by 12 points, 25-13. We have seen that almost all of Buttigieg and Klobuchar's supporters have completely fallen in line behind Biden. That's how he just did what no one expected him to do. The fact that late deciders in California decided 40-30 or 40-29 to go with Biden, which was the opposite of what I would have thought, that they would coalesce behind Bernie to give him one last shot. No, they were already coalescing around the presumed front runner. Bloomberg has already hurt his campaign quite a bit and is apparently possibly dropping out. In which case,
which he would endorse Biden in a heartbeat.
I think that's what's going to happen. If Bloomberg drops out and endorses Biden, then I don't see any possibility of Bernie coming back from that. Unless Biden just dies, or I don't even know what talks about children rubbing his legs under the pool. What else very similar to Trump. What else can this man say? Not know which race he's running for? Not be able to quote the first sentence of the Declaration of Independence? What else can this guy do other than just start dropping the N-bomb unironically with the hard R? Just repeatedly. Do what's that guy's name? Michael. Oh man. Michael Richards, doing a set where he just screams the N-word over and over again with the hard R. What? Is there anything short of something insane or dying that you can see Biden doing at this point to halt his own momentum? He seems like he's done everything he possibly could.
No, he has done absolutely everything that he possibly could.
And you have two of the most that'll be Joe Biden and Donald Trump, two of the most gaff-tastic, foot-in-mouth politicians.
So, real quick update before we move on. In Maine, tied up 33.6 with 59% reporting. In Texas, a 1 point differential between them. Also, apparently the buzz today was that Kamala Harris was going to be endorsing Biden, and she didn't show up. And
now she looks like an idiot.
Well, no. So the question is, was she waiting to see if Joementum was real, or I'm willing to bet she endorses him tomorrow.
Exactly. And loses all the clout she could have gotten from doing this. Because now you're endorsing, someone as they're doing their victory lap, as opposed to endorsing them and being able to say, I was one of the people who stood behind.
Right.
Because Kamala Harris,
even
on
though
paper,
we argued so much on live TV.
All these people argued with each other about how terrible each other is. But no, you're right. I mean, she's the one who was the first body blow to his campaign with the "I was that little girl," which she was not. But I was that little girl, and you did what? And he just you were that little. I don't remember. That was his Michael Bloomberg moment, which he apparently, it looked like he wasn't going to recover from unless you talked to me and Matt, who said that this was all going to turn around after South Carolina. But what do we know? We're just watching. The freaking computers couldn't have predicted this.
Yeah, there's computers would not let me pick who I wanted to in certain races.
We were telling the computer, this is what's going to happen. No, cannot happen, impossible.
Now, I did not see Massachusetts
I did not.
or Maine. Massachusetts or Maine, I admit, missed those.
Did not think those. Minnesota, I hadn't thought about it, but if someone had asked me and I actually spent some time on it, I would have said I think he's going to win it now because Klobuchar endorsed him and she was going to win it. There were a lot of people that I remember there was someone who said, don't just want all of the, if you're against Bernie, you want to have a bunch of people in the race because the models are showing that if their people dropped out, that Bernie would end up leading Biden or Bloomberg by, 10, 15%. That was asking people a question on a telephone. That was not those people dropping out and endorsing Biden and showing up with them at a rally. And you've got all this emotion invested in Buttigieg, Klobuchar, Beto, whoever you were supporting, and now they're standing up on stage with Joe Biden telling you why you should vote for him instead.
Right.
And we're seeing the results of that right now. So Texas is now, and that's with how many percent reporting?
42% in. Now it's less than a point differential. From
and
the
that's
time
interesting because
that.
Mine, I'm looking at 47% in Texas, and Bernie still has a 3-point lead. So you're seeing 42%, and Biden is
down by 0.7. So look, that all this really means about Texas is this is not being decided tonight. We are not going to know who wins Texas tonight.
It doesn't look like it, no.
We might not know who wins Maine, which I would have assumed that was. I figured that one was done.
I figured that would be Bernie versus, Bernie and then Warren in second and then Biden, behind Bloomberg. I did not.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we've been predicting for quite some time, Matt.
It is. I mean, we have been calling Joe Biden's going to be the nominee for a while, and there's still a chance that he's not. But everything about this points to the fact that, yes, it will be.
Yep. By the way, in California, now it's only with 8% in, but Bernie's got 27%. Bloomberg 19%, Biden 17%. So he's going to win California. He might not get a majority of those delegates.
Yeah.
It's looking like he's not going to get a majority of those delegates. So that's, he won California. But in terms of delegates, this is
going to be, a lot of these races are going to be a lot closer than we all thought.
Oh, breaking news, Cher has endorsed Joe Biden.
I saw that. I wasn't even going to say it.
I mean, why not?
All right. Let's talk about Supreme Court real quick.
Supreme Court, and you know more about, I'll let you lead on this because you know way more about this than I do.
So the Supreme Court tomorrow is going to be hearing a landmark abortion case.
Okay.
June Medical Services is suing Russo. The case, June Medical Services versus Russo. It's formerly versus Gee. June Medical Services is challenging a 2014 law, Act 620, stating that no one can gain access to abortion without a note from a physician. Actually, that's wrong. I typed that incorrectly. Back in the law requires doctors performing abortions to get admitting privileges at a hospital within 30 miles of the clinic.
Right.
Admitting privileges gives an outpatient doctor the right to admit patients to a hospital and treat them if any emergency occurs. So that way, if somebody is having an abortion and something goes wrong, the abortion doctor can take them to a local hospital where they can get treated.
Right.
By the abortion doctor. Many hospitals will not give, in Louisiana, I'm gonna preface this. In Louisiana, many hospitals will not give abortion doctors admitting access
because their fundraising would dry up. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Because their fundraising would dry up.
Yeah.
Now there was a law very similar to this back in 2016 in Texas, Whole Women's Health versus Hellerstedt. It was very similar, almost to the letter similar. June Medical Services is claiming that the law creates an undue burden on abortion access.
And that was how the Supreme Court ruled with Texas, right?
Yeah,
They ruled against the law.
they did. They
Okay.
did rule against the law.
Okay.
Many people in Louisiana fear that this law will close 2 of the 3 abortion clinics left in the entire state of Louisiana. In February, the Louisiana Supreme Court ruled that the idea that providers have difficulty obtaining admitting privileges abortion providers have difficulty obtaining admitting privileges and claim that their law does not force clinic closures.
Right.
So Louisiana, which has more abortion restriction than any other state in the nation, 89 separate laws.
Gosh.
One of them is a 24-hour waiting period after requesting.
Oh, wow.
So since, man, these notes are all out of order. Since 2016, when the Texas law, when whole women's health versus Hellerstedt, since then, the shape of the Supreme Court has changed a little. Not as much as people think it has.
Not nearly as much as people think, but it has changed a little.
You've got Neil Gorsuch taking the place of Antonin Scalia. And then you've got everybody's favorite Justice Brett Kavanaugh replacing Anthony Kennedy. And that's where the big change is. Now it leans conservative as opposed to the liberal court that it was before this.
And specifically on this law, like Brett Kavanaugh actually votes a lot the same that Kennedy would. Not on abortion, though.
Not on abortion, though.
Gorsuch might be a surprise. Anyway, go ahead there.
Since this law was first put into effect in 2014, it's gone through a lot of turmoil. After the Texas ruling, it ended Act 620 in April of 2017. Louisiana challenged this law, and somehow, some way, the Fifth Circuit reversed the ruling in September of 18. Then it moved up to the Supreme Court, and in February of 19, the Supreme Court put a temporary stay on the law. So for the last year, this law has been kind of resting to the side with the people from June Medical Services trying to make sure that they continue to fight it. In May of 19, Louisiana seemed to have found a loophole with the third party standing, stating that abortion providers cannot challenge the law in the first place because they are not the patient it would be affecting. This changes the landscape of this argument forever.
Right.
Abortion providers, Planned Parenthood, women's clinics all over the world, all over the country, are the biggest reason that abortion cases get challenged.
Yeah, you're not going to see... I mean, you'll see some class action activity from women who want or wanted to get abortions, but the juggernaut behind challenging this stuff are the providers, are the health, the medical providers and the abortion providers, namely Planned Parenthood.
Yeah. So the state is actually questioning whether an abortion provider is allowed to argue on behalf of the person actually impacted. Because Roe versus Wade was an individual challenging law and not a law on business. This case is not only going to rule on Act 620 in Louisiana, it would probably reverse Texas's, but whether or not a third party like an abortion clinic can challenge state laws since they themselves are not the patients who are being affected by the law.
That will be a huge... I can't even comprehend.
This is a huge case for both sides of the abortion argument.
It's a huge case in general, because if you decide that a third party can't contest something in court, a lot of lobby groups are going to be done because their whole thing, this would challenge the ACLU. Would it not?
Yeah, I believe so. Like, it's hard. It's legitimately hard to say all of the people this could.
The ACLU would have to find specific people that were affected by, and those people would have to sue. That is interesting. My prediction here is that the court's going to punt on the question of third-party challenges just because it's so game-changing. And that they're going to, I think, rule in favor of the act. So it will change that. I don't see this court. This court is very, like, even in its current makeup, doesn't want to, like, do these massive game changes like this. I don't see them ruling that a third party, either they'll punt on it or they'll say no, a third party can, because that's the status quo right now. Do you see the Supreme Court ruling that third parties can't challenge state laws?
So there is a law saying that you can't unless you are affected by the law.
But
it's whether or not the Supreme Court sees
them as being affected.
But because Roe versus Wade is about an individual's right to choose, they are not individuals.
So then it wouldn't really affect ACLU because ACLU can say it because they're usually dealing with, like, freedom of speech cases and freedom of expression and stuff like that, where they're saying this affects us as well because our freedom of speech. But where this is specifically individuals choosing to get abortions, for a third party to say, well, yeah, we provide those abortions, the court, oh, wow.
Yeah. So what you're going to see is you'll see third parties. God, what was the name of that movie? Citizen Ruth, I think, is the name of that movie. It stars Laura Dern. It was an indie movie back in the 90s.
Okay.
And in it, she is a homeless glue-sniffing drug addict. I think she's homeless. It's been a while. And she gets pregnant, and she becomes the face of the pro-life, pro-choice movement. Both sides of it, because the pro-lifers are trying to get her to keep the baby, and the pro-choicers are trying to get her to make her own choice. But later, one of the guys offers her money to get an abortion just to prove a point. And that caused a huge thing. But anyway, that's actually a huge plot point of that entire movie. Then now it's spoiled for everybody.
With no warning.
With no warning, because I wasn't even thinking when I was word vomiting that. But the entire thing is about sort of what will start happening. You're going to start seeing clinics finding people to sue the system. They'll have to. They'll have to. 100% have to.
Because they're not going to simply just roll over and let this happen. They'll just have to roll with it. And so you'll be seeing these, like, class actions from women who had to. And then the optics of that, women going into court with their babies saying they didn't want to have them.
Yep. This is a huge, huge law, and there's going to be a huge, huge ruling on this.
One way or the other, it's going to be huge. Because even if they punt back to the state, that was huge. Like, there's nothing that maintains the status quo here. Something major is happening.
Right.
That's going to be, even if it's just letting it expire, or, refusing to see it or whatever, and letting the Fifth Circuit ruling stand. Wow. That would be incredible. So we got some comments here. Serotonin is not having a good night.
She is not having a good night.
She's not.
I saw that and I didn't.
Yeah, she's not having a good day. Robin Dominic says Biden resonates with people who are clinically dead. which is
True.
yeah. Also said if she could turn back time, reference to Cher, I'm sure, or maybe to that woman that wanted to have an abortion. This is so, guys. This has what I'm enjoying about this night, besides the pure entertainment value of what's happening.
Oh, this is gold.
I'm enjoying the reality that we've been saying something very similar to this was going to happen for over a year. And everyone, oh, you don't get it, you don't get it. The computers didn't know this was going to happen. We knew a year ago this was going to happen. And it wasn't some like dumb prediction. We said this was going to happen because of the exact things that are happening right now. This wasn't some like lucky shot into, I don't know, Biden. I'm going to go with Biden because I don't know what the hell I'm talking. We have articulated for countless hours about why this was going to happen. And here we are. Joe Biden at this point is the presumptive nominee. He's definitely the front runner, and I don't think anyone.
He is definitely the front runner.
No one can claim otherwise. Joe Biden with late decide. Here is some interesting data, folks. Joe Biden with late decide. Let me pull this up so you can actually see it, because this is magic. Let me pull this up so you can actually see this.
Are you looking at the late versus early?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Late deciders, guys. Joe Biden completely swept the deck on late deciders. Which means that, and Joe Biden's not a late deciders kind of guy. He's someone that people would go, hey, you know what, I don't really like Joe. I'll go with Bernie or Peter. This is what coalescing looks like. It looks like people completely abandoning their first negative 32% in Maine and Vermont for Bernie. That is people who supported Bernie who were saying, you know what, this thing is done. Let's go ahead and vote for Joe Biden. And they were doing this on the strength of Joe Biden winning one state and having having two of the candidates.
30 years.
Yeah, one state in 30 years, and then having two of his opponents endorse him and drop out and endorse him, and then a third who dropped out a year ago endorse him, or months ago endorse him. That's on the strength of that. What do you think late deciders are going to look like from now on?
Oh, yeah.
On the strength of him winning all those damn states.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is pure geek magic right here, because that just shows you what just happened. Why the computers were wrong, and these two handsome gentlemen have been right all along. And why you need to just start listening to us when we tell you what to do. Maybe throw some money our way on Anchor.
Yeah, please. Sanders' margin down to 1.4% in Texas per Decision Desk HQ, and the difference in Maine is roughly 90 votes. So you're looking at a recount.
Yeah. That close.
You are looking at a recount.
Sanders' margin now down to 1.4 percentage points in Texas.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's going to win Texas.
Not by a lot. Like, so delegate-wise, it's not going to
Delegates, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter delegate-wise.
But winning states is narrative.
Yes. It's bragging rights.
Winning states is narrative. To be able to say, I won... Hang on, let me go back up. He is going to be able to say, I won Virginia, I won North Carolina, I possibly won... Well, I won Massachusetts, Maine, I don't know, Oklahoma, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Minnesota. He is going to be able to say he won those. Possibly Texas. maybe May.
Here's what's
Possible.
happening in Texas. No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Here's what's happening in Texas. These folks are still waiting to vote right now.
Their polling booths closed.
But they
At
were already
7?
in line, and they are waiting, and they are, I don't think, now this is one station, but it's in Houston, which is a largely, has very large numbers of Black and Hispanic people.
Is that in Houston?
Yeah, this is in Houston. Yeah, they're saying voters are still waiting in line. Okay. Texas voters, specifically in Houston, they are all Black and Hispanic.
Yep.
I'm telling you right now, at least 60% of the people in that crowd are voting for Joe Biden. So I think Joe has won Texas, or will win Texas.
And it's gonna be close. It's gonna be very close. We're talking possibly equal delegates.
Yep.
But again, to be able to say that you won Virginia, North Carolina, Texas, Massachusetts, Maine, Oklahoma, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Minnesota. 1, 2, 3. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. To say you won 10 of 14, 15, 16, 17, 10 of 15, or whatever, however many places voted today. I think 15. To say you won 10 of 15 when the Friday before, you weren't you were expected to maybe win one, but you're going to get some delegates from coming in at like 20% in a bunch.
Yeah. Yep. This completely changed on what we said would happen. As soon as it went to Black voters and people who weren't paying attention, Joe Biden. Let me show you another graphic. Biden is winning among voters who said they want to beat Trump. Now, look at the numbers here. Biden's ahead in 37 to 24. No, 37 to 25 for people who say their number one issue is beating Trump, electability, beating Trump. Sanders is doing way better than Biden on that the most important thing, because they asked two questions. What is the most important thing for, who you want to, who you're choosing to vote for? And it was either beating Trump or whether you agree with them the most on the issues. For the ones who said the most important thing was that they agree on the issues with the candidate, they overwhelmingly, almost 2-1, picked Sanders over Biden. For the ones who said that the most important thing is that Biden is that they beat Trump, Biden beat Sanders, but only by 12 points. The reason that matters so much more is look at the top there. Nearly 2/3 of voters care more about beating Trump than they do about agreeing with the candidate. That's why Biden's winning, is because they perceive Biden as being the one who can win, even if they agree with Bernie Sanders more. That is why... Where's that? Hold on. Sorry, I hope I'm not making anyone sick with it. That is why the late breakers are going for Biden. Not because they agree with him more than they do with Bernie, even though some of them do. Well, no, the late breakers, probably most of those late breakers agree more with Bernie, but they want to beat Trump, and that's more important to them. This is Joe Biden's race now, which we predicted so damn long ago.
Yeah, it was like last February.
It was like a year ago. And if you had asked me what was going to happen a year before that, I would have said the same thing. Or pretty much as soon as Biden was in the race, I'd say Biden's going to get it. He was Barack Obama's vice president.
Yep.
Do not be surprised if Obama endorses him in the next couple weeks. Don't be surprised if Obama doesn't do a thing until Joe gets the majority of delegates. Because Obama's not a big risk taker in general, especially for sticking his neck out for someone else.
Right.
And there's an argument to be made that there's no reason for him to even have to do it because Biden's winning it on the strength of his own performance. which is hilarious because his performance is terrible. But he's winning it. But there's a part of me that could see Obama wanting to be seen as a kingmaker and going, and even though it's already a foregone conclusion at this point, am I wrong in that there's a possibility that Obama might want to be seen as a kingmaker? And
you absolutely, no, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
He absolutely wants to be seen as that, but I think that's a big reason on why he doesn't endorse anybody, because if they lose, he will be seen as not.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once Biden gets the majority of delegates, which at this point I think is the most likely thing to happen, then I don't see Obama necessarily waiting till the primary to endorse him if he's already gotten the majority, or to the convention to endorse him. If he's already gotten the majority of delegates, that means he wins. So I could see Obama doing it then, but I could see if it's where it's like he's just like a hop, skip, and a jump away from it, I could see Obama just jumping in and saying, "I'm with Joe," and that.
Yeah, if it's really like if it's well on and
there's no shot of it not happening. Yeah.
Right. Then yes, he will absolutely do it.
But that will further underscore the Bernie bro argument that, the only reason Biden got it was because, the establishment pulled out every stop for Bernie, which at that point will not be the case, but that's what they're going to say. And it matters what you perceive.
So we only have about 4 minutes left.
Okay.
So we should probably start wrapping up.
Let's wrapping it up. So guys, thanks again for tuning in. We will update you on California
tomorrow.
No, I don't. But I might be going live this week, or not next. I'm going to be on Enemy of the State's Dank Pod Stash, talking about the campaign, convincing a bunch of agorist anarchists that they should vote for Vermin Supreme just to piss everyone off. And I'll be doing that on. I'm being interviewed on Sunday or Monday, but I don't know when it's going to air. Probably sometime next week. But be sure to tune in next week for the Muddy Waters of Freedom, where we will tell you who won California, or how many delegates they got in California, and we'll tell you who won Texas. Matt, if someone were to look for us on the internet, how would they even do that?
If they wanted to look for us on the internet, you could head on over to Facebook at facebook.com/muddiedwatersmedia. You can go over to Twitter at twitter.com/muddied_waters. You can hit up Float at float.app/muddiedwatersmedia. You can find all of our audio at anchor.fm/muddiedwaters. On YouTube, you can find us at youtube.com/muddiedwatersmedia, and on Instagram at muddiedwatersmedia. And you can find this and every episode at Muddied Waters Media.
Well, that is magical. Guys, muddywatersmedia.com. And also follow me on Twitter if you want to follow my campaign shenanigans. Twitter at RealSpikeCohen, and Facebook, facebook.com/literally SpikeCohen. So guys, thanks again for tuning in. We will see you next week. And where we're going,
we don't need roads.
You're my baby, my lover, my lady. All night you made me want you. It drives me crazy. I feel like you were made just for me, babe. Tell me if you feel the same way, 'cause it just feels so right. I don't wanna waste no time. If I had to choose, I know I'm gonna always choose to be with you. 'Cause girl, don't you know? Girl, don't you know you're so beautiful? I wanna give all my love to you, girl. Not just tonight, but the rest of your life. I wanna be always here by your side. Girl, don't you know you're so beautiful? I wanna give all my love to you, girl. you're not here, you don't know how much I miss you. The whole time on my mind is how much I'm gonna get to make you feel so good. Like you know I could. Tell me if you feel the same way, 'cause it just feels so right. I don't wanna waste no time. Girl, if I had to choose, I know I'm gonna always choose to be with you. Girl, don't you know? Girl, don't you know you're so beautiful? I wanna give all my love to you, girl. Not just tonight, but the rest of your life. Always here by your side. I wanna give all my love to you, girl. Oh, 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 yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, 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 yeah. Baby, don't you know you're so beautiful, oh, beautiful. Baby, don't you know you're so beautiful, oh, beautiful. Oh, baby, don't you know you're so beautiful, oh, beautiful. Baby, don't you know you're so beautiful, oh, baby, don't you know